Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Monetary Board, Deputy Governors and staff. We had to take 30 minutes to discuss internally issues pertaining to the central bank and its communication on matters to Parliament. I'm not going to go into that, but I'll just mention here what the issue really is. But before we do that, could you kindly introduce yourselves for the record?
Appointed member, Monetary Policy Board.
Good afternoon. Anushka Vijayasinghe, appointed member of the Governing Board and Monetary Policy Board.
Andalal Veerasinghe, Governor, Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
Nihal Fonseca, appointed member, Governing Board and Monetary Policy Board.
Vish Govindasamy, appointed member, Governing Board and the Monetary Board.
KGP Sirikumara, Deputy Governor, Secretary.
Sorry?
Sirikumara, Deputy Governor,
Oh, the new Deputy Governor?
Yes.
Congratulations on the new appointment.
Thank you.
Chandrina Thamarasekara, Deputy Governor.
Congratulations to you too.
Nelumani Dawalagala, Senior Deputy Governor.
Maitri Vikramasinghe, appointed member, Governing Board and Monetary Policy Board.
Congratulations to you and welcome to the Committee on Public Finance for the first time.
Thank you.
Dilrukshini Watudura, Assistant Governor.
Dimuthu Samarathunga, Assistant Governor and Secretary to the Governing Board and the Monetary Policy Board.
Chanuri Jayasinghe, Director, Department of Supervision of Non-Bank Financial Institutions.
Subhani Kirtiratna, Director, Financial Intelligence Unit.
I'm Rukshana Jayathilaka, Director of Bank Supervision.
Vipula Vikramarachi, Additional Director of Economic Research.
Pavitri Vithanage, Acting Director Legal.
Lasita Patperi, Additional Director, Economic Research Department.
Lasanthi Sirimana, Chief Accountant.
Sudat Prasanna, Director Foreign Exchange.
Prabhat, Director Human Resources.
Yasantha Veerasinghe, Superintendent of Public Debt and Superintendent of Currency.
Hemantha Ekanayaka, Director Communications.
Erandi Lienage, Additional Secretary and Secretary to the Governor.
Okay. So, Governor, the issue is a practical one. And that is when members ask questions in the House that deals with monetary policy. For instance, inflation or exchange rates or, the inflation target. Generally, we do not get answers in the House because there is no representation of the central bank sitting in the chamber. Now the question is, how do we address that?
That's a good question, Honorable Chairman. I think what we say usually when the question was asked in the Parliament by a member, that goes directly to the Minister of Finance. And they share that question with us. Sometimes the answers are needed. So tomorrow we get the question, day before tomorrow, like today. So we somehow managed to provide those answers and send it to the Minister of Finance. They are the authority to provide that answers to the whoever the member of the minister or deputy minister. Usually they respond to that. That's a mechanism I can ensure all the questions those are coming to the central bank through the Minister of Finance. We send answers within the deadline. But we have noticed in the process those have not been on time, and the requirement has not been answered because they take some more time or whatever. Because sometimes questions are not only related to central bank. Questions are related to central bank, Minister of Finance, some other agencies. I think process, as I understand, Minister of Finance collect questions, answers from all the other agencies and compile and they submit to the minister in charge of the subject, and then they respond. I think we don't mind if there's a situation, if we are invited, we can come here and sit at the this chamber and provide answers if necessary. But I think for us to provide instant answers, I think it's too difficult for any officer to immediately respond without knowing the question in advance. I think we would appreciate we know the question in advance, can give a proper right answer through the process.
Chairman, that's the very reason that I wrote this letter, where the sense of independence for certain structure is given to them, that doesn't devolve or divorce the activity of the representation in Parliament through section 148, 149. So that's indispensable. So the very aspect of independence is on certain performing acts, but that doesn't exclude the operation, because central bank comes under the purview of the finance minister. And even the Gazette at this particular moment has that in play. So my question was as to why the Secretary Finance is not here at this meeting is one of the biggest problems that is there. Because as the Governor quite rightly said, any question that is asked is routed through the Finance Ministry. So if the Finance Ministry Secretary, who is the Chief Accounting Officer, which happens to cover the central bank, is not present here, there is no thread between what we are asking and them. It's not for central bank to decide how much long you need to answer. If a member of parliament, whether government or opposition, asks a question, if the Minister of Finance can answer fiscal policies within 24 hours, central bank can answer that in 6 hours. We are very automated. So it's not the question of when and how, it is if. And not to, the question requires is to get the public domain, not for central bank to come and get it answered here. So let's get those clear at this point.
Okay, so we are not going to go into this discussion. We've had an internal discussion and we've decided on a particular course of action. I just want to mention that this is a recurring question, and that we'll need to ensure that whatever questions that are asked from the central bank are answered in a timely manner in the chamber. So we'll discuss this further amongst ourselves and invite you again perhaps for another discussion on this.
So, Honourable Chairman, with your permission, can I make one comment here?
Yes.
Even, so this is nothing to do with the central bank independence or new act. Historically, all past 75 years, this is the way central bank has been providing answers to the parliament. There's no difference in the past or now, nothing to do with the independence or act. There's a clear process for us to provide answers to the parliament.
Okay.
So if that has been the question, Governor, what is the special privilege of independence that you have got at the moment? If it has been the past practice in the past, what is the new thing that you have inherited?
I think I can explain the act, which is
no, we understand that, but I want to know what is
clearly specify the implementation of monetary policy. Independently, Secretary Treasury is now sitting at the governing board or monetary policy board, and there's a prohibition of monetary financing. There's other important aspect, and also there's some stronger accountability to the parliament that we did not have earlier. Independence and accountability has basically both have come together in the new act that we did not have in the past.
Independence is there, accountability exists.
Accountability exists.
That's the issue that is on. Independence, yes, you cannot be questioned, you cannot be dictated on what to do. But certainly can be questioned as for the accountability aspect, because the act very clearly, especially the overarching act being the constitution, that says that the accountability doesn't spread away from the sense of independence you want. That's the difference between independence and accountability.
Accountability is even within that, it has been clearly specified. That's why we are here to answer to the parliament.
Yeah.
That's accountability.
Yeah, but the accountability does not mean an independent authority is answering here on 6 hours of a year. That's all that you'll come and answer.
No, at any point.
No, let's not dwell too much. What I want to do is,
let me
we want to see as to how we have got to get
Parliament has authority to summon us at any point.
Yeah.
That's given in the act.
Yeah. So that is important that you mention that, Governor. I'm going to read 82 subsection A. The Governor of the Central Bank, the members of the Governing Board and the Monetary Policy Board, and every deputy governor of the central bank shall, at the request of Parliament, be here. So we would insist that people just don't show up, that practice has to stop. Right, if they are going overseas, they should know when the monetary board meetings, the parliamentary meetings are. Because like the honorable member said, we meet only 4 hours of the year. Certainly those members who have been appointed to the board can, allocate 4 hours of the year to meet this committee in parliament. So I'm insisting that unless the person is indisposed, that they are present at these 6 monthly meetings. Thank you. Because you see the issue, right? All right. So then the business of the day, we have 3 matters that we need to get through. One is the inflation target for quarter 4 2024 and quarter 1 2025, and again the inflation target quarter 1 and 2 of 2025. We'll do both of those together. And then of course under section 82 of the central bank, the 6 monthly report that you will present to us. So unless you want to collapse everything into one, you can do that. Otherwise, you can do it separately. But I would think you can collapse everything together. That might be easier.
More practical, no?
Yes, Honorable Chairman, we have prepared the presentation.
Yeah.
Taking into consideration your request covering all these areas, and I invite Director Economic Research, Dr. Sujita Jagajivan, to make the presentation, and then we can open for discussion. Thank you.
Good afternoon, honorable members. So we have prepared a presentation to cover the inflation breach report as well as the functions of the central bank. So this has been designed as per section 80, subsection 2. The governor and the members of the governing board and monetary policy board and every deputy governor of the central bank shall, at the request of the parliament, be heard by the parliament or any of its committee once in 4 months. And to meet that requirement, we are meeting today. So we have prepared the presentation to cover the central bank operations and functions under the objectives of the central bank, starting with the primary objective of achieving and maintaining domestic price stability. Let me start with the discussion on the recent inflation development. The headline inflation has returned to positive territory in August 2025 after recording a deflation from September 2024 until July 2025. And currently it is on the upward trend, moving towards the targeted level.
Doctor, next time at least for the chair, if we can get a color printout. It's difficult to read this.
Okay, we'll do that. So the reasons have been, the reason for deflation has been mainly because of larger deflationary conditions in the energy and transport category, and we have seen with the recent revision to electricity price revisions, as well as some easing, some slight adjustment to other fuel components as well. We have seen that deflationary conditions on the energy and transport category has slowed down to closing to a positive level in the upcoming months, and also some increase in food inflation also contributed to this positive inflation. As of the latest data, inflation stands at 2.1% as per the Colombo Consumer Price Index based inflation. As
Is
per
it 2.1 or 3.2 the last 3 days
this
ago?
is Colombo Consumer Price 2.1.
Yeah, is it 3.1 or 2.4?
2.1.
That was September.
September.
Yeah, I'm talking October. No?
Sorry,
Without-
October 2.1.
You mean you must be referring to the National Consumer Price Index. What is the NCPI?
NCPI is
That was also 2.1 in September.
September. October is 3.4, no?
October will be
Came
released.
out day first today.
No, that so CCPI based inflation was 2.1 in October.
Maybe, okay.
And the same figure for NCPI in September.
As per section 26 of the Central Bank Act, there was an agreement signed with the government to set the inflation target, and a margin was also set to measure whether there is an inflation target miss. And as per this, if you are missing the target, we are supposed to submit a report to the Parliament reasoning out the failure to meet the target, remedial actions proposed to be taken by the Central Bank, and estimated time period within which the target will be achieved. In line with this, we have so far submitted several reports. The first target miss happened during 2024 Q2 and Q3, 2 consecutive quarters. The actual inflation quarterly average was not within 3 to 7 band. So we started submitting that report, and so far we have submitted 4 reports, and the recent report being for Q1 and Q2 2025, which was submitted presented to the Parliament on the 24th of October. And as per the currently available information, we have the quarterly average for third quarter of 2025, that is 0.8%. So there will be a new report outlining the reasoning behind this target miss. As per the currently available information and the fan chart that was produced during the last monetary policy cycle in September, we expect that inflation will continue to accelerate in the coming months, and it will reach the targeted band, the margin as per this monetary policy framework agreement during the first half of next year. And for this, the current monetary policy, continuing current monetary policy easing, the recovery in economic activities, and energy price normalization will help to support this expected path in the coming period. When it comes to monetary policy stance, the Central Bank has been...
Just one moment. Is that all you have to say about the first 2 reports, or this is part of that?
This is for the first 2 reports.
Okay. Okay.
So, shall we question thereafter, or how do you
Yeah,
want
that
to-
is what, when you finish, you come,
Because
or you are going to collapse everything together.
So we have designed like price stability, then financial system stability. As a
So,
part of the price stability, I have covered the breach report as well.
Yeah, so once you finish the price stability section, we want to
Okay.
ask questions.
Okay.
Okay.
So the Central Bank has been adapting monetary policy, easing monetary policy stance from mid of 2023, and thus far the policy interest rates have been reduced by 800 basis points, so 8 percentage points. And the latest revision has been a 25 basis points reduction in May this year. And we are showing that monetary policy easing has been translated or transmitted to market interest rates as well. On the right hand panel, we are showing the key benchmark market interest rates to show the reduction in 2023, 2024 and 2025 thus far, and the total reduction during these periods, as well as the latest rates for the benchmark interest rates. For example, from 2024 up to now, there has been a reduction of 150 basis points in the policy interest rate. For that reduction, we have seen the prime lending rate, average prime lending rate on a monthly basis has come down by 424 basis points, and it currently stays around 8.15%. And the overall new lending rate has been adjusted by 411 basis points, and the current rate is at 10.27. And a larger adjustment in government securities yields, 91-day yields adjusted by almost 700 basis points, and one-year rate adjusted by 489 basis points, and the current rates are at 7.52 and 8.04%. And we also see that we are compiling a rate for applicable for SMEs as well. The new SME rates also have come down to 10.77%. So we see a broad-based reduction in overall market interest rates in line with the eased monetary conditions. We see this monetary easing and the pickup in economic activities is reflected in the expansion in private sector credit. A notable credit pickup has happened in the recent months, but there has been a composition change in the domestic credit. Domestic credit consists of three components. One is the credit to the private sector, credit to the government, and credit to the state-owned enterprises. And in the recent times, we have seen a notable pickup in the private sector credit, which is in line with the economic recovery that we are observing. And with the improved fiscal performance, we see net credit to the government has slowed down. And last 2 months, we have seen a negative a contraction to net credit to the government from the banking system. And also with the improvement in the financial performance of the most of the key state-owned enterprises, we see contraction most of the time for the SOE credit as well. And we have preliminary data for September as well. So during first 9 months, we see the credit to the private sector has expanded by around 1.37 trillion, and which is continuing in the recent months. And so recently we have commenced collecting data on a monthly basis on the sectoral distribution of credit. It started in April, so we are closely monitoring the monthly distribution of credit to important sectors. And based on the currently available information, we can show that the credit expansion has been broad-based. Credit is going to agriculture sector, industry, services, as well as the personal credit. And if you see the overall composition as of September, 9% of the credit has gone to agriculture sector, 39% for services, industry sector, 30% for services sector, and 22% for personal credit. So it's a broad-based.
Repeat those figures, please. Can you repeat those figures?
You want, okay.
Agriculture, but you can't.
Agriculture, 9% contribution. The overall share is 9%. Industry is 39%. Services sector 30%. And personal credit 22%. This is mainly for banks.
Once you put, if you have 10 trillion credit outstanding, or the previous one that you mentioned, that is only
that
for
is
banks.
Banks mainly,
Only
yeah.
Banks.
We have M4 as well, but the contribution is relatively smaller, and the finance companies' concentration is on few products like leasing.
But then does this offer a comprehensive picture of the marginal allocation of credit? This is a monthly thing, right?
Yes.
Now, what is the total credit available to the private sector? About 10 trillion? 9 trillion? 9 trillion?
Yeah, 9.5.
9.5 trillion, okay. So of that, how much is?
That as a percentage?
Yeah, banks as a percentage of that 9 trillion?
So it's around more than 80% is banks. So what I am showing is the expansion. Expansion was 1.37, but the outstanding is 9.
That I understand.
Yeah.
So you are looking at a monthly change in the credit only in the banks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the banks. We have.
Do you have a comprehensive one of banks and finance companies together?
We have, but we don't have the sectoral breakdown for that M4 category, the finance companies and specialized banks.
But
the contribution is small.
It's reported that out of the 1.37 that you mentioned, that 1.16 trillion is on vehicle loans, and that is on leasing and pawning.
No.
Well, here it is, quoting yours. the Central Bank of Sri Lanka announced at the end of the 6 months, the 1.161 was on vehicle loan surge.
That is contradictory to what you have.
Yeah. Quoting Central Bank.
Can somebody take a look at this? Yeah, go ahead.
That and more alarming is the pawning has gone up to 1.1 trillion.
Let's get some clarification on that, because really
That credit creation means nothing if it's going on to this.
You want to phone, do you have the phone? Bank. Outstanding. And let me discuss about the external sector developments also. The external current account has been recording a surplus for the first 8 months. However, with the trade balance widening, there was a deficit recorded in the external current account in September. Of this,
Sorry,
with this,
Chairman,
the
I need to interject. Can we tell me what is the credit creation of the, earlier the ratio in the private sector was about 22%, what is it at this moment?
28.6%.
28.6%.
First half.
that is year on year.
Percentage of GDP.
No.
Growth is 22%.
22%.
2%.
Yeah, that is year on year.
Year on year, 22% growth. Yeah.
What was it, say, 6 months ago?
13%, 12%.
It was growing at a faster rate in the recent times.
Yeah, so that 12% to 22% grew in what sectors?
Let us lay the question, maybe some of your colleagues, doctor, can figure this out.
Because it is required to know if the growth is in what section. If it's the vehicles, release, bonding, and the credit creation, then it's with the unhealthy situation. That's why it's a very pertinent area that requires your answer.
So the question is, shall I sort of place the question, because this looks very, very rosy. This looks as if everybody is getting equal treatment. But some numbers that we have been seeing or is being discussed doesn't suggest that. I also have read, like what he just mentioned, that a lot of the credit went to purchasing of vehicles and pawning and things like that, which would mean personal loans. And also, if you can add non-bank financial companies also into whatever you all are preparing now, we probably can have a much more nuanced discussion.
Chairman, let's get the answer because we see them.
Yeah, so let them work on it until she finishes this first section.
Yeah, but these are pertinent to get these answers. You got a color one or what is it?
Yeah, I just got
This
one.
is for LCBs.
I just asked for it.
Oh.
I didn't get one. Let me, somebody just gave it to me from the back. I didn't get one either.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean the central bank has enough money to print some color for printouts, no?
So you want to go for some breakdown of credit? Or
Yes, that is what is required.
The overall credit, say for example, if you see a major change has come from construction has been expanding.
What's the percentage?
So its share is 2.2% of the overall credit.
That is the expansion, 2.2% of, what is it?
2.2% growth, and it's
No, what the question, doctor, is now there has been a 1.6 trillion expansion, no?
almost 1.4 trillion.
Sorry,
expansion.
1.4
Yeah.
trillion expansion during the first 9 months.
Yes.
The question here is, A, what sectors did that go to? And B, does it include, or you said it doesn't include, non-bank financial institutions. Once you include that also, what is the breakdown?
Including non-bank, we don't have the sectoral breakdown.
I think let's clarify this. Non-bank one is a very small percentage if you take total credit. I think we can, because banking sector classification, there's a detailed breakdown of construction, agriculture, not only those three categories, there are detailed breakdown that we can share. This is coming from what we call quarterly credit survey. Quarterly basis, banks are providing much more details credit distribution. For that we have data here. That's why I don't want to explain that part. Then when you come to finance companies, there are only three categories: pawning, motor vehicle leasing, and also some other gold-like that loans. That's a different classification that we can share that also. That's a small component compared to the broad, what 1.4 trillion. That's maybe 10% of the 1.4 trillion from the increase by the non-bank finance companies. So I think it's useful for you to understand, for us to show the breakdown of sectoral breakdown of at least, I don't think we had data for first 9 months, at least for first 6 months, we have the breakdown of detailed sectoral wise that we can share, I think.
So if
why don't you show that? I mean, there is published already.
No, I'm sorry, the question was not that. The 12% growth to 22% represents what sectors? That's what we want. We don't want anything else. That's the question. We'd like to get a break.
If that slide can be shown on screen, that is there on a monthly basis. I mean, like Governor said, we see the sectoral contribution of credit to each. I mean, so essentially to each sector.
Dr. Chandranath, is a mic on?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you look at this, honourable member, what is shown in red on a monthly basis is the increase in personal loans and advances and so on, and going back up to April. We have the same classification from the beginning of the year as well.
So do you mind getting a cumulative of this 12 to 22? Just tell us, you must be having information. We can't see it from here.
Okay.
I don't want it read. I've said
can I tell
give the break from 12 to 22.
Okay. So for the overall credit, including licensed specialized banks, licensed finance companies, and commercial banks, overall outstanding is 12.85 trillion. Of that, 9.5 trillion is commercial banks. 2.1 billion is 2.1 trillion is from finance companies, and 1.2 trillion is from licensed specialized banks. And we are showing the breakdown of sectoral components for that 9.5. Out of 12.8, we are showing the breakdown for 9.5. And on a monthly basis, we don't collect this from specialized banks or finance companies, but non-bank finance.
Yeah, so now still 12 to 22, what is the sector that has grown up?
Yeah.
Is it in the areas of construction, agriculture, trading? That's what we want to know.
So this is the growth. For example, if you are talking about September expansion has been on a monthly basis. Expansion has. So this is the September expansion has been 27 billion has gone to agriculture, 73 billion has gone to industry, 71 billion has gone to services, 60 billion has gone to personnel.
DR, I think honourable member is asking for the cumulative figure for the full year, quarterly survey results for the 3 quarters.
Yeah, I mean, what you are giving on this rightmost stack is the share of the existing 9.5.
Yeah.
What the honourable member is asking
exact number
is not that. What he is asking is what the stack is for this amount.
So can we give this after the presentation?
Yeah.
So we have put it in a quarterly format. We don't have the cumulative in the table readily available.
I think from that question itself, if you really look at the September, from August to September, the personal loans and advancements are moving from 40 to 60 million, right? And if you take entire industry as a whole, remains the same.
Industry had gone down from 91 to 73 from the previous month.
You know, industries and agriculture, industries and
right.
services together, commercial activities has been very constant from July. So what's been growing is the personal loans from 20 to 40 to 60. So
That's
it's
right.
basically doubling every month.
That's right.
That's
the question that
That's
I
the
think
indebtedness is what is increasing.
So is it going for these vehicles or what? Is there any further details on this 60 million personal? 60 trillion.
So we see pawning is expanding. 8.4% of the share is going to pawning. Then we have credit card, and also
What percentage?
credit card is 1.9%, and other consumer items 9.7%.
This is inside the personal.
Inside the
So
personal.
this personal might also has housing loans as well, right? Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
housing doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Housing
there's-
doesn't work person.
Huh?
Housing doesn't
No,
work
there's
person.
no other category to put, so obviously it has to get captured under the
Services? Construction?
From the services, wholesale and retail is 10.6%. Then we have financial and business services 7%, tourism 3%, communication and IT 1.3%.
That's actually industry, so that's very clear. So the personal means either credit cards, pawning, or personal loans.
Housing, where is housing?
Personal housing is under industry.
Huh?
Industry 9.3%.
Construction industry.
Construction.
Construction
Yeah.
industry. That's what I thought.
So then
And
if you
of
leave
that,
that out, it's
is
credit cards.
it
and-
categorized as long-term lending in capital expenditure area or not known?
This can include the short-term, medium-term and long-term loans.
Yeah, I think what would be useful is if you can just do a quick note on both the banks and non-banks, because you see the type of customer into a leasing company and a bank usually will differ, no?
Yeah.
And SMEs probably go to leasing companies and established firms will go to banks. So if you're looking at the margin where growth is coming from and the sustainability of that, I think it would be much more useful to all of us if you have a much more disaggregated presentation of this data. Would you know
so
that
just want to add here, Cha, now what
Know
we've
that-
observed in the industrial side also, banks are not lending to small holders, small SMEs, and banks are not giving long-term capital. So distribution of tenure and the size of the borrower is also important in analysis, because what we are seeing is the excess capital that is created through government not borrowing is only going for large players. So it needs analysis to see whether the banks are really concentrating their portfolio into where the real growth is required.
Yeah, but there's a specific lending, because Dr. adding on to what Minister mentioned, the SME you said 10.26 was the growth. Sorry, average lending rate.
10.77 is the weighted
How do you ascertain that?
So we are collecting data. It's a weighted average rate.
Yeah, so that weighted would be in the hands of a skewed in a 2, 3, 4, 5%.
Yeah,
No
so-
small medium guy gets at that rate.
So that weighted average might also include the government provided low cost loans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's better to get what these commercial banks are actually lending. They are lending 12 to 14. So that's, I don't know how it came down to 10 or 11.
If I may add on to this, because it's very specific, if you look at in 221, your total borrowing for pawning has been 500, roughly in the range of about 500 billion. It has gone up to 24 to 6 to 700 million, and 25 it is 1.3 trillion at the moment. And your poverty moves in line, as I meant, the first year is 9%, 24, 25%, and next 22, 25 is 32%. So there's a correlation between the more you borrow on the personal area goes into debt, surviving the debt crisis. So that's the reason why I asked you, when you create credit, is it in the favorable direction? I mean, if it's capital as long tenure as the minister said, then it's positively going. This is what we'll expect from an independent central bank.
Because early there was sector-related lending guided by central bank and was clearly guiding commercial banks where to lend, what to lend, and which industries we should lend. But now there is no such direction. Even we couldn't even fix the SME credit, what you call SME debt crisis. The 5 billion loan that was given by the 5 billion that was allocated by the government, only 44 people got it with 5 million working capital. Banks are not at all
That's the
lending
5
to
billion you all allocated.
restructured organizations. So there needs to be some direction where these funds are going. And there's other thing is, I think this is a problem with government lending programs, that the lending, all the programs are open from 500,000 to 25 million. And when the banks are given the quota, they end the quota by lending it to few 25 millions. So basically no credit coming to the micros and the small guys. So we will have to see from the government side, now we can't direct the commercial banks at all. So I think there needs to be some level of guidance from central bank focusing the credit to the real growth sectors in the future.
So Chairman, Governor, previously there was specific lending portions now in your portfolio of the bank. You can instruct that you can give it to the youth, the women, the underprivileged, etc. Does that exist now?
No, I think what the honourable member Tasbanga Singh and you also talking about, the schemes we had in the past, there were foreign funded and government funded schemes targeting youth, women, some of the sectors, loan schemes like what you have now 5 billion, they were allocated and administered by central bank. Now that function has now been transferred to Ministry of Finance. Development Finance Department is the one that now administer those kind of targeted credit schemes. We are no longer involved in that because under the new act we can't do that, because our monetary policy purpose is to not to target the directed credit even earlier, because there was a conflict, central bank directing credit to certain sectors and implementing monetary policy as a conflict. As a new act, that function has now been by the Minister of Finance. That's why I think
Governor, the total amount that is coming through the government is 15 billion.
Yeah.
So the SME credit requirement in the market is about 200 billion.
Even earlier, those schemes are provided, concession schemes are very limited. They have never a sufficient credit available for the concessional basis. We never had this kind of scheme. We had limited amounts. For example, we had Saubhagya scheme earlier. Then similar, some foreign funded schemes, when money is utilized, the scheme is over. Then only collection, revolving fund, they used to, again lend on that. But that money also now transferred to the Development Finance Department for them to roll it out under those schemes. So what you mentioned, any weaknesses in the implementation, I think there is a MOU signed with the participating institution, with the banks and Development Finance Corporation, how to administer the schemes. That part you can send, but still I recognize the fact that this is not enough. You can never have a sufficient credit. When you offer concessional rate, there is a huge demand. You can't meet that demand. That's why normal market mechanism through the bank system that will provide. But again, the distortion is that banks will provide credit. For example, SMEs, when they offer 12% or when they price the premium, sometimes they don't want to take that premium. So that's why other schemes like credit guarantees institution, or now recently secure transaction, the that mechanism was brought in to at least movable properties securitization, like those schemes will obviously flow credit into all these sectors.
So what
Those
you're
are
saying
the-
is specific lending now has to be routed through the budget of the ministry. If you want
Yeah,
to lend
correct.
to the youth, provide it in your budget and give it.
Exactly. Yeah. That
So
is
it's
the
a
mechanism.
specific
I think that I
that
can
is not
agree.
sufficient. That's my view.
No, I think the real question is when we are monitoring the use of capital in the country, you have a greater view as central bank where this capital is moving to. At least if we can't start publishing, there's a pressure on the commercial banks, even the government, to see how do we adjust this. Now I think my request now is what has happened or we didn't had, that's okay. But going forward, if we can really break where these funds are moving to at scale, we can see where because now government is not borrowing. There's excess, the government has made a disciplinary, fiscal consolidation to ensure that the government doesn't borrow. So when
But
that
being fair, the governor says it's not controlling his, it's a bank's.
No, what I'm
decent
trying
right to take it forward.
So it's central, because the entire capital flow, central bank monitors, government doesn't monitor at that level. But to see where the direction should be, if the central bank can't give a direction to commercial bank to say you need to lend this portion of the portfolio to SMEs, then at least to monitor and see.
Yeah, Honorable Member, we have information that meanwhile someone got the information.
Yeah.
Sectoral monthly basis, we collect that information. Why don't you share
Yes,
that?
Governor. Chairman, if I may. So we had this sectoral credit breakdown until February this year. We collected data quarterly and disseminated quarterly basis sectors and subsectors. But from March onwards, we started collecting data monthly basis to have more broader view. And so what we presented here is a monthly sectoral credit data. So, but at the same time, from March onwards, the commercial banks, we asked them to consider more on the sectoral classification. So they have adjusted some loans in the previously reported numbers. So because of that, from March onwards, it's difficult to compare with previous numbers. But I have now, from March onwards, for 7 months, the expansion of credit in these commercial banks for subsectors. So if I just let you know, the total is, we just informed, it's around more than 1 trillion, 1.1 trillion expansion. And that expansion comes from main 3 sectors, and agriculture and fishing, it's around 100 billion expansion. And in all subsectors that we collect, there had been expansion. Tea 29 billion, rubber around 6.7 billion, coconut 8 billion, and paddy 25 billion in the agriculture sector. And industry sector, the expansion is around 379 billion. And that comes mainly from the construction sector, and the construction sector expansion was around 222 billion. It's like 25% of the total expansion within these 7 months. And the services sector, it's around 400 billion total expansion, and the mainly comes from wholesale and retail trade, that's around 185 billion. And the tourism sector, there had been a repayment around 10 billion. During these 7 months, and so we have subsectors, and we have published this in our website. It's available, and that's for the 7 months from March to September.
That construction sector, which you said 234, takes into account the government paying off the loans there. It moved 100 billion there. Is that part of it?
So this is a private sector.
I think that's great. I think that information I'll start viewing. If we can get a tenor and the size of the lender, whether it's been lended to the SME sector, whether it's lended to large scale businesses, if that also information can be gathered, it's good information to look at. If that is possible.
Honorable Member, at the moment we collect from the banks sector-wise aggregate figures, not lender-wise.
Yeah, that's where the information that's not there, just a request to see. Because it will be a good analysis to see where the funds are moving, because large conglomerates are also expanding. They are acquiring companies, they are growing big, so they have enough collateral, so it's easy to borrow. The capital is now cheaper. So the smaller guy doesn't have collateral, he has to do lot of things to get access to this capital. That's where we need to probably see where this funding is moving to. And also banks are very reluctant to give more than 5 years or 6 years. So that is not supporting the long-term growth.
On the members' question, sorry. Yes, Dr. Chandra.
In response to what Honorable Minister said, I think in addition to the figures given, I think there is a separate SME survey as well, and there I think we look at the size of the loans as well. That information can also be provided. I think in the report to COPEF we will provide that.
What's the definition of a SME? Below what level do you take as SME? Is it the trading value, balance sheet value?
No, 250.
Sorry? Less than $1 billion.
I had a sort of follow-up on honorable member's question. The tenor, I mean, do you have a weighted average tenor on each of these things? Or? No, the length. Maturity. I mean, I would think, the certain types of loans will have, like the member asked earlier, is this for capital purposes? I mean, trading purposes, obviously short tenor, quick turnaround loans, as opposed to whether they are going into actual investment. How would you know that?
We do. I think exactly. So
Mr. Fonseca?
The total portfolio, when you take the total loan portfolio maturity profile we have, but the maturity profile within SMEs and economic sectors, I don't think we collect that information in that form at the moment.
Yeah, I think the question really is because we are post-crisis. Where is the money going? Is it going towards more productive purposes or is it going towards purchasing cars? I mean, essentially that it is what it boils down to.
Yeah, I think if I may have a view on that, in a recovery process, usually recovery starts with the consumption picking up. That's how, without consumption picking up, there is no production taking place. People won't invest in the production unless they see the consumption picking up. That's how usually in the recovery, at the early stage, consumption will have to go up. That's why this pawning, agriculture, all these things are going, and motor vehicles also maybe partly consumption. That will convert into with high demand. That then there's an incentive for the production processes to increase supply through the investment. That's the second phase of recovery usually. I don't think we can expect in the recovery investment taking place at the beginning. There's a sequence, and then consumption taking place later. That wouldn't happen usually.
Yeah, but then just to add to that, you got to look at the context, no? I mean, the marginal propensity to import in our consumption basket is pretty high. So, I mean, you borrow and you import a car, most of it goes to a investment or a industry overseas. So while theoretically it is true, consumption has to lead and then investment will have to follow, the context also matters. So I guess if you can do some data analysis, perhaps you can see better whether, where the money is going is in the right direction.
I think for that we can look at the import of, we have a category clearly consumption, intermediate and the investment goods. So that's where if you look at the motor vehicles, personal vehicles are classified as a consumption category. So tourism, commercial vehicles are under the investment category. The intermediate are raw material imports. That's where we can look at, have some idea of where are the demand coming from, which categories.
Okay,
Mainly investment and intermediate goods are usually picking up in terms of imports.
Chairman.
Just Dr. Chandranath, you wanted to say something.
Wanted to add to what Governor said. So essentially, Honorable Chair, even though we say personal loans and advances, I mean, if a person buys a motor vehicle, it does not say that that will be used for only for consumption, because the economy is evolving and becoming more complex. I think, I mean, Uber and PickMe and, so many other productive activities could happen even through personal, the increase in personal loans and advances. And if you take pawning, it may be for agricultural purposes. So we don't go into that deep, but simply because personal loans and advances are growing, it does not mean that it's less productive than providing credit to others.
Doctor, did you say that the pawning goes into agriculture? So what type of interest does that type of pawning
that's
gain?
a trend historically. When there is the harvest season and the cultivation season, usually people go and mortgage this jewelry and take that money, and end of the season they settle that. That's a short-term cycle. That has been happening all the time.
Does it deem fit for the central bank to feel, my question, the origin was this, where the movement of the funds have been? Is it into capital? Is it into consumption? Is it into paying off loans? Now that is very vital. Didn't the central bank deem fit that this was a necessary way of looking at the trend analysis in the spend?
That is what exactly this additional director explained, the sector-wise where money
so
goes.
in that case, why didn't you feel deem fit to give us that type of breakup? You are still groping
that's
in the dark
available.
as
That's
to
why
how
we
to
can give
respond
that.
to my question.
No question about that. That's why it was provided, because
Yeah,
it was
so
not in the presentation. Data is published monthly.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the answers to Honorable Ravikarnalaka's question were contained in that answer.
Contained, but that should have been a specific thing here to say from 11% to 22% grew in the areas of X, Y, and Z. Because if you look at there has been $1.8 billion of trillion dollars of LCs open for vehicles. Of that, it's seen here that 1.16 is on leasing and performance on the vehicles that is there. Balance 237 billion on pawning. So you could see where the trend is. And in that case, I mean, pawning, if it goes to agriculture, well and good, but I don't know whether they make such amount of money in that sustainable, agriculture at this moment.
One other pawning is almost double. The value of the loan size is also high now, compared to what was in the past.
That's true.
But that gold rush was only 2 months, so it went up to 325, came to 235. The lower lending was always in the range of about 210. So that is only a last 6 weeks.
The gold prices, pawning loans maximum tenure is 12 months. So the 12 months is pawning is maximum 12 months usual banks.
Yeah.
They don't lend more than that.
I think, there are a lot of anecdotes here, Dr. Chandranath. I mean, central banks usually move beyond anecdotes. So let us actually take this conversation into your research unit and get some people to really sit down and, disaggregate these numbers. And why don't you present us a paper on the kind of questions that the honorable members are asking. And these are very relevant. So let's take it beyond anecdotes. Let's do some proper analytics with some serious, robust number crunching. Yeah.
Chairman, being on this subject on what Minister Chaturanga asked, now the banks seem to be posting some very healthy returns. Now that would also mean that, owing to the fact that there was no write-offs of the bank on certain things.
Remember, that is the next section.
Okay.
That's the next section. So if we can finish up, Doctor. No.
During first 9 months, the external sector current account has recorded a surplus of 1.9 billion, and the gross official reserves as of end of September stood at 6.2 billion, and the net international reserves stood at 3.4 billion US dollars. The currency has depreciated by 3.9% thus far during the year. and the central bank has purchased around 1.5 billion from the domestic forex market to build reserves.
Yeah, I have a question on the, if I may?
Yeah.
I have a question. So if we can finish up, Doctor? No.
During first 9 months, the external sector current account has recorded a surplus of 1.9 billion, and the gross official reserves as of end of September stood at 6.2 billion, and the net international reserves stood at 3.4 billion US dollars. The currency has depreciated by 3.9% thus far during the year, and the central bank has purchased around 1.5 billion from the domestic forex market to build reserves.
I have a question on the, if I may?
Yeah.
I have a question, Doctor, the previous slide. The other one. Yeah, that one. Now, this NIR, can you give us a definition of net international reserves in terms of your central bank's way of looking at it? And also the program, IMF has a different definition of NIR. Could you kindly explain this to us?
From the central bank definition, we take the gross official.
Can you put the screen, big screen, somebody?
The central bank definition is from the gross official reserves, we remove the central bank liabilities. The central bank main liabilities are three main liabilities. One is our previous IMF program outstanding balance.
Previous.
The current one is for the government. It's not our liability. The 2016 programs remaining balance is a liability for us, and PBOC swap is a liability. That's around 1.36 billion, and also we have a liability with the RBI swap that has around 900 million as a liability. So when you take out these three major components, you get the NIR as per the central bank definition.
So so what did you say the gross reserves was about 6.2 billion?
Yeah.
And the NIR was about
3.4.
3.4 billion. So it's about 2.8 billion. No, how much? 2.8 billion. 2.8 billion is 1.3 billion is your PBOC swap.
Yeah.
Then you have a India RBI swap, and then you have
IMF liability is around 580 million.
That's the continuation to 16 balance payment.
So now
after 216 balance payment.
The remaining balance to be paid.
How much was RBI swap?
RBI swap current balance is around 880.
So 880, and the remaining IMF payment was
580.
Okay, right. Then do you have domestic swaps with domestic banks?
Yeah.
Forex swaps with domestic banks? So that is not taken out?
That is not taken up. This is for the external liabilities are being taken out.
But say you have a swap with HSBC or Stan Chart or something. That is still a central bank liability, is it not?
But domestic liability.
But domestic liability in forex.
Yeah, in foreign.
But you still need forex. I mean, when we did the restructure, I mean, why didn't we impose any burden on the commercial banks? You said, look, they are holding ISBs.
No.
So my point
ISBs
being, I mean,
these are domestic short-term swaps with less than 1 year maturity.
Yeah, but RBI swap is a little short.
RBI swap is longer term
that was
because
3
it
years.
converted into
3 years.
3 years.
So if it is a domestic long-term swap,
We don't have long-term.
We don't have long-term
So
swaps.
these are the CDBs.
Huh?
These
No,
are the
swaps.
Local CDBs.
Local
Commercial
swap with
development
the
backs
local
in,
swap with the
bonds
commercial
in
bank.
dollar less than 1 year tenure.
Yeah.
Yeah, less than 1 year.
That's what you say.
Yeah.
So that's a more hot money type of operation.
yeah, so that is even worse, no?
Yeah, that's exactly.
I mean, what I'm saying is, let's look at I mean, here you have basically earned reserves, no, Governor?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what we had during the previous calamity was we had so much of hot money, like $3.5 billion of hot money,
Correct.
and we had about $2.8 billion of short-term swaps, which the then governor said, look, we have 6 billion, 7 billion in reserves, which we didn't really have. So the objective here is to ensure that these are stable long-term reserves. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct. So if that is the case, if you have even in the domestic market swaps on USD, should not that be removed from your calculation?
No, I think we can show separately. Here, this reserve build up through kind of the genuine inflows. That is the difference we have seen last 3 years. The first year, almost 1.8 billion we purchased net basis from the market. Last year, 2.8 billion. This year, so far, 1.4 billion. So that is the key source of reserve build up for last 3 years compared to previous several years. All the years we have been net intervention in the market, not the net absorption. That's the key way of building up resource through current account surpluses that we have been generating last 3 years. On top of that, we also would like to build some of the levels of gross operational resource on the basis of whatever money coming in. So this is another instrument for the banks. For example, banks on liquidity. This is an instrument that we provide to the banks. If they want rupee liquidity, they can enter into a swap with central bank and get the rupee liquidity for their lending purposes in the local market. That is one of the instruments that banks have been using mainly for short-term liquidity purposes. That we can't say no to that. If there's opportunity, I think we should use that to also provide the liquidity to the banking system. That's another instrument in the market for them to use and for us to at least short-term basis build our resource over and above. If you say that cannot be done, basically then we have to do more market intervention to fill that gap. That have other implications.
Now, the reason I'm asking this question is twofold. One is, there was or there continues to be sort of a target somewhere of something like 7 billion or 8 billion or something like that on the gross side.
That's not a target. That's
that's what I'm saying. That's why I say something floating around.
Estimate, yes.
Right? Something. It's not a target. It's an estimate. I don't know what you want to call it. But there's a number. Right? Now, to what extent do you think it is important, to get to that number? Or given the fact that you have 3.4 net international reserves billion, and you are also positive about 3 billion, I think, according to the IMF's report on your program net international reserve, you seem to be meeting the objectives. What is your short-term plan in terms of maintaining these reserves, both at the gross and the net?
I think short-term plan is, for example, this short-term liabilities in terms of swaps would be helpful for us to meet short-term obligations of the government debt service payments. For example, if we know next year government debt service payments are, say, for example, 3.5 billion. That's the next 12 months, 3.5 billion debt service payment that we have to provide for exchange. For that, if we can provide 75% out of our permanently stable resource through our interventions, we can provide 100%, that's good. If we think that we can't build 3.5 billion within 1 year, then other ways to build in the short term and then roll it over a period of time. At least we need to have sufficient buffers to meet the debt service obligation of the government. So usually it's after restructuring, compared to earlier $6 billion every year, towards the end of the crisis, now we have restructured up to last couple of years, 2.75 billion on average. After the restructuring of 2028 onwards, it will be 3.5 billion. So annual 3.5 billion requirement. Perfect solution would be if we can build our own current account surpluses, 3.5 billion, then all current account balance is good, stable resource. But it's not realistic for within 1 year for us to build out of the current account proceeds 3.5 billion. Maximum we bought the history last year to 2.8 billion because they are motor vehicle import restriction. That's why the gap will have to be filled through short-term financing. This is one of the instruments. We can provide liquidity, and at the same time, short-term financial requirement can be met out of this domestic source with the commercial, because they are also building their resource. It's not that we are pushing them to bring that in, because they are also building their foreign currency resource in their accounts. So they can use that their foreign currency balances for them to be, without permanently outright selling that to the central bank, they can have that money back if they want after 3 months or 6 months. That's a strategy they are also basically employing for them to have some kind of a cushion for them. For
When
the
you
commercial
mention
banks.
they means the commercial banks.
Commercial banks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is also, just one last point
Yeah.
on that, but it's also having a fairly significant impact on the currency rate, currency, no? I mean,
That
the
soft shouldn't
currency
have an
today-
impact on the currency.
I mean, you are having growth in import, and what we see here is short-term loans are being granted, and we also saw about 1.5 billion dollars worth of LCs being opened to import cars, etc. Then the banks you said are trying to build their own reserves. That's also putting complementary pressure on the currency. Then you are also trying to purchase from the market. That's also putting pressure on the currency. So all that put together, there is some significant erosion in the value of the currency in the last 2-3 months, no?
Yeah, obviously, compared to last year, this year demand for still up to first 9 months, current account has still been, because the remittances and tourism inflows, although import bill has been going up, on net basis, still until last month, current account has been a surplus. Surplus has been higher than first 9 months of last year. But now we see the pressure building up because of the imports of motor vehicles are now picking up at a faster rate. So we can see next couple of months, if that continues, there will be a more demand for imports, and there will be a less current account surplus. Now, at this first month, this month, current account became a deficit after long period, after the crisis. That's because of September, October, imports are picking up. The 2 billion imports bill came last month. It's partly because of the motor vehicle imports. As a result, it's obviously, if that is happening, we need to let the currency adjust gradually, not volatility. That has to reflect in the currency on demand and supply basis.
Ravi, just one last one, sorry on this. Are you planning on changing the LTV at all on this? Because that's a regulatory decision that the central bank has
That's a
to.
good point. Macroprudential instrument that we have used once, about 3 months ago, that is one instrument available. I don't think we can discuss whether are we going to use it or not, but you will see if we use it, if that is needed. That is one of the instruments we have to at least restrict the credit going into the market and restrict the usage of that credit to certain products. In terms of LTVs, so gold and motor vehicles, the LTVs on housing, gold, there are several categories. There's a macroprudential instrument available.
But LTVs on vehicles, you took it up to 80%, no?
No, but
It was earlier 90-80%, we brought it down.
Yeah, and then
about
took
2
it back
months.
up.
No, but
No,
what
we
you
did not
took up
increase
was
that.
only for trishaws. No? All the others you retracted.
Yeah, didn't you?
Yeah.
No,
you-
25%
Didn't you go from 70 to
three-wheeler,
From
60 to
25%
70?
trishaw took it to 80%.
went to 50%
Yeah.
increase, but all the other vehicles from 90%, 80% brought back to 70%
You
and
reduced
60%.
it. So they can't
Reduced it.
credit on that.
And now it is less.
It's less.
Yeah. Only trishaws increased. Now, in the process, you mentioned that 1.5 million have been bought from the market. In 2024 September, your reserves are 6.4, and you are now at 6.185. So where has been the deployment of the 1.5 been? Because if your reserves are such, as per the IMF agreement, you have to maintain 7.2 by this year, 9.6 by next year, 14.5 by end. But if you don't achieve that, your outside bondholders and all will feel rather jittery. How does that look at? Where is the employment?
Yeah, I think the one clarification, remember, that is not a target. As I said, this is a projection by the IMF. For example, IMF has a projection on inflation 5%, growth is 3.1%, whereas we have our own projections.
Yeah, but that
Our
projection
projections
is
are
bent
different.
on, the paying the loans of 14.5, at least must have 50% to pay now. So that's the reason why it has been looked at, that estimation. So that is a bearing impact on what you're going to really pay out. So you can't neglect that also.
No, we can't neglect, but we need to continue to build up. But we have a different view on to what extent we need to build our resource. if you look at the last 2 years, they have been having higher estimates for last 2 years. But we have been able to negotiate that we don't need that much of resource. We build at the phase that we can build without disrupting the exchange rate. That they have accepted. That's why they have been revising this path going forward. Even if you look at this year, the next review, they will revise it further downward of the path. That is the communication we are having with the markets. That we have to balance the both sides. I don't think if IMF said that for us to build that amount of money at any cost, we are not going to build that amount of resources.
Governor, just one question there. Is there a risk of doing that, Governor, just to clarify?
No, I think the important one is the market expectation and communication to the market why this was the case, and have it confidence in the market. We are in the right direction. Steadily we are improving our positions. Not that we are building up to the highly kind of ambitious target. We have to explain why we don't need that much of resource. For example, if, as I said earlier, annual debt service of the government is 4 billion. Even when 6 billion, we never had over more than 8 billion resource in the history. So when annual debt service is 4 billion, if we have 8 billion resource, for example, you might reach that target next year gross basis, then that is for us, it's a comfortable level of resource that market will accept that. They all depend on what are the future liabilities of the country. And there are few things. One is the debt service, government debt service is only one component. Other one is the overall current account inflows, remittances, the tourism and export growth. That is why important to have export growth continuous. With that, we also need imports as well, but we should be able to finance that out of foreign exchange earnings. That is has to be strategic broadly by the government and the country. But for us, we have specific targets on the resource and the monetary policy.
Right. That's why, Chairman, I asked the question of the build-up, because if I take the mind back to April 22, when the debt standstill, we were unable to meet up and this thing. Now, that particular one is what is really impacting as of now, even borrowing from overseas, etc. Now, at that particular moment, the debt standstill would mean, did the Parliament approve that? Was it communicated to the central bank that yes, Parliament is giving approval for the debt standstill?
I think that question has to be asked for the Minister of Finance.
No.
Sorry?
Honorable Chair, I think this is,
No, that question has to be asked for the Minister of Finance.
I agree. I think, Honorable Member, that I don't think the Governor can answer. It's a decision that
we are unable to borrow at the moment owing to a debt standstill that was there.
I agree. That's a question that I presume
caught up in this. So
but that's a done deal, no? I mean, all of us have criticism over that, but
So the issue there was the Parliament was not made aware of facts, and as a member who was regularly questioning the then central bank and the ministry, we know for a fact that until they officially announced it in the Parliament that we had only $30 million, we were assuming, we were told they had enough reserves. So I don't want to go into that in great detail. This question
I think we should be more future oriented and we should look at the risks in the future, but what is the point of discussing this now? The debt standstill happened and now we are in this position.
No. So that's why the question earlier as to what the definition is, whether domestic swaps are also part of this or not. And in my professional opinion, I think that also should be taken into consideration, because that is also foreign exchange that would be needed to pay back HSBC or Standard Chartered. I have two questions
referring. That would obviously mean for the repayment cycle.
Sure.
You've got to build up that.
Sure. So the thing is, Dr. Jagadevan, the difference in the definition between yours and the IMF. Now, what does IMF's NIR mean?
IMF's definition of NIR is a bit complicated. So there is in the staff report, there is a section called Technical Memorandum of Understanding. From the CBSL definition of NIR, we need a lot of adjustments to happen to report this program NIR. So if we talk about the current number, our definition is 3.4. But as per the IMF requirement, by the end of this year, we have to maintain only 448.
How much do we have according to them?
The requirement is 448.
No, how much do, now yours is 3.2
3
billion, no?
yeah.
According to the IMF definition,
Oh.
what is that figure?
The quarterly numbers are September minus 233. NIR,
interest
program
services.
NIR for September is minus the 233.
And we have to have plus 480 by the end of the year.
Yeah.
End of the year, yes.
So that is, so we need, according to their definition, we need about another $600 million built up in the NIR.
Yes.
So our 3.2 billion must go up to about 3.8 billion.
Something like that.
Something like that.
If
Now,
anything
But
else
at the
no,
same
didn't
time,
change.
we are yet to receive two tranches, right? The
Yes,
IMF tranche and
and the ADB.
Yeah.
So obviously it will cover that.
Yeah, correct. That's
So,
accepted.
see, this is what I'm saying, these definitions, we have to be very careful in these definitions because we all may go astray thinking, look, this is not sufficient or this is more than sufficient. So,
I think the confusion is on the IMF forecast versus what the IMF requirement is.
So IMF's definition of the reserves, I think, is
No,
different
that
from
this
ours.
particular 448 million required is not there in the public.
It's published
No,
in
the
the
sense it's not discussed
it's not
at
discussed.
large.
Because,
So what get discussed at large
correct.
is the 7.2 that is in the forecast.
That's the forecast.
And also the debt sustainability definition also we will have to bring to play. The ratio that they are looking at is the debt to GDP ratio at the end of the day and the debt servicing percentage. So rest of it is a forecast that's been given.
Exactly.
So I think there's a lot of communication that needs to happen on the sustainability of the countries next few years.
Correct. I think just to give a clarification on the why this NIR definition is different for a purpose. For example, if they give us a net internal reserve target, if we meet that target by having a swaps with the commercial banks or having some other arrangement, that is not considered as a genuine build-up of NIR based on their. That is why they have taken out certain kind of inflows. So short-term government inflows, treasury bills and bonds, and some of the project inflows are taken out, and also domestic swaps also are taken out. Otherwise, it would be easier for us to build that
domestic swaps
easily
are taken
using-
out in the IMF.
That's right. So that's why this difference. There's a purpose why they have been taken out for the program purposes.
Okay, I understand. And my last question on that is, now you said that foreign banks are also, or commercial banks are building up their own reserves. I mean, is there any way for the central bank to regulate what they're doing with those reserves, whether they are lending it domestically, whether they are lending it overseas?
Yeah, I think there again, earlier clarification, Mr. Fonseca also highlighted me the domestic swaps with the local commercial banks. When it happens, inflow comes in, it's reserves of the commercial banks moving into central bank. Other way around, if we pay back, it's gone back to the commercial bank reserve. It's a domestic two institutions, central bank versus commercial bank. It's not something going permanently out of the country. That is the first point.
It's not.
It's not. It's either with the commercial banks or with the central bank. That's the first point. The second point that you raised, this question on the commercial bank build-up of foreign exchange positions.
Yes.
That is happening because commercial banks have this foreign currency deposit accounts with people who are migrated and people who have come back here. A lot of people are keeping their savings, exporters, the remittances are kept in foreign currency accounts with the banks. That's a deposit liability. That is also increasing last 2-3 years, remittances are going up, that part also increasing, exporters are also increasing their balances. When they have deposit liabilities in foreign currency, they have to lend or use the asset to prevent the mismatch.
Understand.
So there are two instruments. One is they usually lend to exporters for their business, trading business, they lend to exporters. They are one instrument. Other one, earlier we had the government issues foreign currency denominated loans or SLDBs so that they could have invested and earn a little higher return by investing in foreign currency instrument. If they don't have both of these, any balance, they have to park somewhere outside and earn some return so that they would be able to give a reasonable interest for deposit holders, foreign currency deposit holders. So that is why if you look at last 3 years, because there's nothing much, government did not take single foreign currency borrowing so far from the banking sector. So they have been building up, but they have no opportunity. Only thing they use partly export credit, partly they are investing outside government securities in the US treasuries or some other instrument. They have been investing for them to be able to, one is to prevent the mismatch, other one is to get them a reasonable return so that they can give it back to the deposit holders who are holding foreign currency deposits. That is, I don't think we should intervene in that, because we don't want commercial banks to mismatch and exposed to currency risk, having a mismatch in the dollar liabilities versus rupee liabilities.
But do you watch it?
Yeah, we monitor every time. We monitor. That is one of the reasons we recommend to government. Government actually announced that they are going to issue the instrument called dollar bond. So it's a similar instrument. Yeah. They can take part of that back into the central bank resource, and government can use that money to finance the budget.
Giving them an opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would mean that that's the NRFC type of currency development.
Yeah.
So that, what would that cost be to retract that from the banks into the system? What would be an offer onto the dollar bond?
Sir, I'm not quite sure if you can.
What would be the interest rate you'll have to offer to capture that?
That will be based on the market base. They will conduct auction and look at the maturities 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, or
so
longer term.
In your experience, what type of rate would it have to be given? Will it have a direct impact on the lending rates that you're giving at the moment?
Historically, it has been basically benchmarked against our international sovereign bonds trading in the global market. Now the ISB is already in the market. There is a rate, benchmark rate for Sri Lankan government.
What are they trading at now generally? 29?
4.7 to 6.7. That's a range depending on the maturities.
So they are trading at a discount?
No, I think this restructured bonds probably, yes, at
slight
premium,
discount?
Oh, no.
Or a premium?
Must be a premium, because now a premium.
Okay.
So
those are the benchmark rates. So basically, depending on maturity and the benchmark rate, banks can bid.
So what is the most liquid series, doctor?
I think I don't have. We publish.
T-bonds, we see some sort of interest regarding T-bonds, generally around 3 to 5 years sort of.
No, what I'm asking is, what is the most liquid ISB after restructure?
ISBs. We have statistically each ISIN of the ISB, but we don't have. Right
We don't have information on volumes.
But you must be having your Reuters screen.
Reuters screen is an indicative rates are shown, not the volumes. Yield, only yields.
Yeah. So my question is not very specific. I mean, what? I mean, is it like a 5-year bond that is trading, or is it like a short-term, like shorter tenor bonds or long
basically,
tenor?
investors' point of view, they say all are fairly liquid.
Okay.
And there are interests in some, depending on the investor category. For example, long-term investors would like to hold on to a long-term bonds.
Okay.
Then the hedge funds basically play around the short term.
Now, what is the reserves we have at the moment, our country reserves? What type of interest do we bear for our reserves that we have? Where do we invest it, and what's the return we get?
Do you have that information? It's usually linked to where we invest. For example, US Treasury is other key investment.
Yeah,
in
so
US
what's the
dollars.
return we get?
It's about what I think 4 to 5% in US dollars. If we invest in US Treasury right now, it's about 3-4% depending on the maturity. So we get that return while investing in this US Treasuries. So different tranche, because we have the investment, the liquidity tranche, working capital tranche, and also investment tranche. What we have, the working capital liquid tranche are short-term requirements of funds. We can't invest those funds in a long term. Those are money market deposits, much low interest rates, and liquidity tranche is a little bit longer, and investment tranche is the one we can invest little longer term, because that money won't be needed immediately.
That's about 45% of the.
It's depending on the basically tranche size will be determined by the next 12 months liabilities. So how much of money needed to service government debt.
Right.
And our liabilities. So if we think we need next 12 months period, say 3 billion is the requirement, so we at least keep 3 billion in a short term liquidity and working capital transfers. Balance we invest in the
long term investments.
Return is around 4% now. I am
Right.
getting that information.
Dr.
Yes,
Jagadish,
sir.
before we go to this, we don't need much time now on this.
Yeah.
We can go quickly.
Now, one other thing, on this the deviation target that we have, we find that normally it is expected that you all give a remedial action, but I don't think the last 6 months the same, the six returns have been the same.
Yeah, that's really the question I was going to ask too. I was going to ask
Remedial
two
action
questions,
is that,
and this
we
is
have-
one.
Basically, if you think our mandate is to 5%, current monetary policy stance is the remedial action for us to reach this 5% target.
Yeah, so I mean, we go back to the theory now again. I mean, how potent are you? You know, how much damage or help can you really do in terms of managing inflation? I mean, I was so. I mean, it's
So
about
now
monetary policy, you know.
six deviations, the answers are one of the same.
Yeah,
and
it's
the
all
response is the same.
Yeah, so if you ask this specific question, Governor, you know, what is the reason for the failure to achieve the target?
No, obviously, I think we explained several times. So why don't you, Sujit, explain last, if you look at that chart, it's clearly see the deviation below zero is coming mainly from the power and energy sector. Where there has been significant volatility in prices through electricity tariff adjustments.
Yeah, so
that is nothing to do with the monetary policy.
So that is the question.
Yeah, I mean,
That
then
really
That's the
is
supply
the
side
question.
operation.
Yeah, I mean, so
That's the answer.
how have you, you know, what have you done, right? Or is it even within the scope of your work, you know, to explain, you know, that this is a supply side matter, so therefore there is nothing much we can do. Asking a fundamental
That's our
question.
communication. I think we have been trying to explain that through every monetary policy review and inflation report we publish. We clearly mentioned and shown the sources of this deviation. Where it coming from the food prices, energy prices, those are beyond the monetary policy kind of a control. What
Governor,
we
I
can
think
So are you
control-
telling me
this-
that the
this-
government should not pursue a lower rate policy?
No, we are
So
not.
then-
We are
then
not saying that.
The answer from an independent
This is
central
the
bank,
explanation.
What is the answer for the deviation? We are asking that.
This is
We are
the
not
this is the answer.
discussing
If you can read carefully, if you
That's
can understand.
Understanding the reading, but the question is the independent that come from you, you can't put the blame on the fiscal and the supply side, which have nothing to do with the
There's no
monetary.
blame here, Honorable MP.
I'm asking the question there.
I think we had the same discussion in the last
Last-
review also, and it was clearly
I
explained that
think
this was
it was,
supply side.
I mean, we all admitted the Sri Lankan inflation is heavily driven by supply side. There was 70%, I think, even previous. But we've taken actions mostly on the demand side. That is also true. But now I think what we really want to understand is, now there was a basis point adjustment that the central bank did. Last time you guys said that we are adjusting it a little lower, so there will be a more aggregate demand and it will push the inflation up to the target. So is there any way that we could statistically show that this aggregate demand drove this 2.2%? How much was it pushed by 2.2%? Because this chart only talks about the supply side per se, right? So this chart explains the inflation that was derived from food and energy. So the other portion is called other. So in that other, is there a component that was driven by demands?
Yeah.
Model explain the breakdown of from where it comes from out of these workings. I think we can
Because
explain
as you
that.
correctly said, the only tool that the central bank now has is the
Interest rate.
There's
Correct.
no other tool, no, because
correct.
there's no influence on the growth, there's no
Yeah.
influence on the fiscal. Actually,
Correct.
that is only tool, right?
Yeah.
So then, last time also you explained the expectation is you lower a bit more, there's nothing further that you could do. that you expect within Q2 and another 2 quarters, it will come up. It has. It has
come up.
So it has come up, but then it's also influenced by supply side.
Not necessarily, because if you look at the supply side, the energy price actually it has worked other way.
I think what the MP is asking is how has the policy adjustments, the rate adjustments impacted this?
Yeah, I think there are indicators. For example, because of the rate adjustment, that's why you see every month private sector credit growing at very high rates of 200 billion per month, 3 consecutive months.
Right.
A continuous upward trend in credit expansion is a result of low interest rates. That is how demand is basically pushed into the economy through low interest rates, and that will create more credit in the economy. That creates aggregate demand. That's the first important indicator when you want to see is the growing the credit into the economy. That's where other concern is that if that is too much, that could lead to overheating. That's where we need to monitor closely whether that will lead to more demand for imports, more demand for foreign exchange. That will put pressure on the currency.
Yeah.
That will again come back as inflation. So that's why this is a delicate balance between closely monitoring the demand side through several indicators, and whether this credit growth is coming out of the public sector contraction. That's good. If both public sector and private sector expanding, that could be too much expansion that will reflect in the imports and the balance of payment. So
that's a structural issue we have in the economy, right?
And also, if I can explain from this chart, we have this co-inflation also plotted in blue line. So even though headline inflation went to a negative level, co-inflation didn't move to negative level.
That's right.
And that shows that the stimulus that we have given through the monetary policy easing was helpful in maintaining the demand side of the inflation curve. It has been in the range of around 2%, and it's now it's on the upside upward trend again. So that itself is a sign that we are moving towards the targeted level.
Yeah, I mean, it's also how you look at it. I mean, theoretically, which side of the divide you are. I mean, what Friedman said is inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. There's no way that central banks can drive growth. It's no way. Only in the short term, in the business cycle sense, that you can push up growth a little bit, but in the long term, the aggregate supply curve is completely inelastic. So therefore, you are looking at either the business cycle or you are looking at real growth. I mean, you need productivity improvements to grow this economy. Central bank can only do very little. But beyond that, on this case, what about the exchange rate? I mean, the exchange rate appreciation obviously had a huge impact on the reduction on inflation. And whose responsibility is that?
Yes, again, the exchange rate management also part of the monetary policy. Monetary policy is not only the interest rates, other one is the letting the exchange rate adjust based on the demand and supply. That will also transmit into the general price levels.
Yeah, so
that's the two parts, external demand and this why when you look at the aggregate demand, one part is the domestic demand, other part is the external demand through net exports and imports. So exchange rate will take care of the external demand part. Interest rates will take care of the domestic demand part, which is much larger. In Sri Lankan economy, is 70-75% is domestic demand, other small part is external demand.
Yeah.
The exchange rate will have act as a shock absorber to manage the external demand part. If there's a drop in exports, obviously currency will.
What if we plot the exchange rate also in the same chart? Now,
completely different picture.
Bars are also driven by exchange rate. The fuel prices and all those things are pegged now.
Yeah, when you look at the consumer price index, I think import component is 25%. No? What is?
Yeah, less than 20%.
Less than 25% is the overall index.
Consumption basket.
Consumption basket.
So the influence of the exchange rate only applies to about 25%.
0.25, 1% increase. 0.25 is the exchange rate component. Inflation.
So this
it's
year,
a price
since,
level.
This year, since we had a stable exchange rate, everything is driven by mostly demand and supply.
Correct.
Yeah. So therefore, I mean, there is a lot that the central bank has been doing. I mean, it's influencing exchange rates, interest rates in such a way that the demand has been managed. So I don't think you should say it's all supply side. I mean,
Yeah,
you
of course,
played a significant role in this operation. And what is important is actually your R minus G, because you're looking at your debt sustainability at the end of the day.
Correct.
Because if you're running R that is high and your G is low, looking at that left-hand side, you're going to have some trouble in sustaining our debt. So there's a bunch of other areas also, Honorable Member, that you need to look at, no?
Correct.
Right. So the last question is, now you have given us a technical paper, Dr. Jagajeevan. It's I don't know, it's interesting read, 24 pages, but it looks as if you are trying to tell us these four people who Harishchandra, Jagajeevan, Pathberia, Mahipala, Pathirage and Pereira determine this 5%.
I think if I may explain, when we are going to agree with the government on the inflation target, our research department, they did a research and agreed with the government what is approved target was 5%. So what we have published now, this technical work they have done, published as academic paper.
Yes.
So we want to understand the process.
Yes.
It is not that only those five, they have been the authors of this work, and also that has been used for policy purposes.
No. I mean, let's give credit where credit is due. I mean, it's good that you all are finally publishing this so everybody can read and understand why you are at 5. Because this is a question that we kept asking. Why is it 5? Why is it not 7? Why is it not 3? Now you've given us some data, which is good, which is great. Now the question, however, that arises from this is, if you look at some of these other comparisons, even everybody is less than us. They started, I mean, when you say everybody in this chart, table number 1, Chile, Georgia, India, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Brazil, your developing countries. They started higher. Some even started at 8%,
Correct.
but they've gone down to 3%. Right? We seem to be the only country outside of Mongolia that is at 5%. Right? Now, I assume that you all were looking at this quarterly data set starting from 2009 monthly data set, whatever. And given the post-war inflation management, you probably thought 5% is a good number and you justified it. But the question now is whether we can do better, right? Whether we can do better and we can bring it down to say 3% or 4%. And when are we going to start that conversation? And where will that conversation
We are
begin?
already working on that because 3-year period is ending, I think September next year. 2026 is the period 3-year understand MOU with the government, Ministry of Finance and Central Bank. So then we have to review that by next September, I think. So we are now working on that, doing some this is a base research, but as you said, we have to look at, for example, this is the first regime of the inflation target regime, first 3 years, is that we agreed to 5%. And question is that, are we going to reduce it within the 3 years? So a lot of countries, they have basically waited until we stabilize and then gradually going down to a stable path. There are several other factors we need to consider. Other part is that, as already we understood, is inflation is majority, large part is driven by supply side, then you need to have a variability within that for us to control. For example, advanced countries 2%, this demand side is 90% of the inflation can be controlled through demand side. No supply side impact is there. Other way around. Then we can be confident we can control that 90% of the inflation, whereas if we think we can control 50%, and there has to be a leeway for the balance for the supply side or other policies to take into effect the price levels. It can be positive or negative. I think those are the things we need to think about it. And obviously, in my personal view, we should be gradually reducing the target towards when we develop the economy, when we have much more control on the CPI basket, and we have much more efficient monetary transition mechanism, and more financial intermediate process is much more stronger in terms of monetary effectiveness, then we should be bringing down the inflation from our level of development 5% to say 4%, 3% over a period of time. But that can be done within a short period that's I'm not quite sure. That's a research needs to be done. I think one thing, if it's up to the government. It's the authority of the government. Is or central bank is a mandate. Government can tell us, okay, is mandate government. So in consultation with us, we can explain the decision of the executive or the cabinet or the Minister of Finance. If they say we want 10% inflation, we can deliver 10% inflation. If they say 2%, we can deliver 2% also.
Yeah.
But for us to deliver 2% now, knowing that it's going to 5% next year, already 5% inflation is set for next 9 months. And for us to bring it 2%, we have to increase interest rates now. Right now, we have to increase to tighten monetary policy conditions. Otherwise, we can't bring it down to 2% in next 12 months. These are the implications one will need to be taken into consideration when decision is made. What is the appropriate level of inflation for the medium to long term? It's not immediate short term. Also, inflation is something that you can't bring it down 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months. It's a process we should take decision now. Full impact will be 12 to 18 months. Let's think about that process also.
Okay.
Just one question. Governor, do we have an analysis that this particular supply side and the demand side, how it works for Sri Lanka? Because if you are setting a new target, probably you are considering a new target, there need to be a thorough simulation to be done based on how the country is growing at the moment. Because how things were 2 years ago and how things are now is two different things, and also the fact that there's the only tool that central bank has is the interest rate. And again, it has two sides to it, because if we now again increase the interest rates, it's going to again slow down the credit growth. So there are multiple factors that will come into play rather than debating of the, like, whether it's 5 or 3. Do we have enough strength both between the government and the central bank to, is there a team who's working on
Yeah,
this?
we have technical area that we can work on that. Obviously, government side also, we would like Minister of Finance also develop that capacity to understanding of how these things are worked. We can have consultation all the time and have discussion, technical discussion. We can have that discussion.
Chairman, this is a very important debate.
It's a very important debate, and it is timely that you have done this paper. Perhaps we could even have a workshop if the members are wanting to dig deeper into this, and more as an academic thing.
I think it's
beyond.
important because there's a school of thought outside that you need inflation at a particular level to grow. I don't know whether
that's also one of the factors. That's a good point. For example, country like us, 2% inflation will not help country go at 5 to 6%. That's very clear empirical evidence.
So that also need to be publicized and explained, because people generally think inflation is bad.
High inflation is bad.
High inflation is bad, but even now
you need some inflation.
Moving from minus to positive is also considered bad now.
But that is good.
So somewhere there need to be more literature and education on public what we are doing as a country. And
that's important. That this understanding is very important among the public, especially. Why this 5%? Why it is not 2% or 3%? And also, what is the implication? That minus, why not minus? It's a simple question. The simple answer is that means prices will be coming down every year. So who would want to do the production? For example, if you are a paddy farmer, if you think your prices are coming down next year, there's no incentive for him to produce, because cost of living is other expenses will be going up. It's always is what we call little bit inflation is like grease on the wheels for the growth. You need some inflation. It's not 3 to 5%. It's a debate that we can discuss and determine. I think that's an important debate. We will continue to have this discussion, I think, for a better understanding. Thank you.
Chairman, on the areas of the IMF report, there was a reference to bank supervision being insufficient and not enough staff, and not sufficient bankers. Is that being addressed now?
Yeah, I think
4th or 5th review.
We have been in the process of recruiting for some areas, for example, technical areas. We see some difficulties in recruiting because in the crisis period we had a lot of people attrition. Some experts migrated to other countries, central bankers. As I said, we have a resource constraint. That's why we are now in our human resource revamping strategy and recruitment strategy, and recruit people who are expertise outside on the contract or short-term basis to fill the gaps. That kind of thing is going on. Right now we have given some resources, but still we need more, especially some of the areas like technology, cybersecurity. Those are, we don't have expertise within the bank. We need to bring that expertise from outside. Bank supervision is obviously central bank business. We need to train our people, skill up, and get them ready as good examiners. The Director Bank Supervision is here. If she want to comment on that question, please. DBS.
Could we answer that question along with the financial system stability? Yeah.
So,
Doctor, let's go fast on this.
I mean, there's one more point to add. Interesting discussion. I already had this inflation.
Yeah.
One other thing, why inflation can be stabilized to a low level when we have a less volatility in utility prices. What happened last 2-3 years? Huge variation in energy and petroleum prices because of the crisis. If you are moving into a cost-reflective pricing and smooth adjustment, that will help for us to basically address the supply side and administrative component, can have a stable inflation going forward.
Yeah, in that context, you all also better tell IMF that quarterly adjustment of electricity tariffs is useless. You should at least go to 6 months, because otherwise...
No, I think the point is that I think in my view quarterly is better, because
really?
The 6 months adjustment, if that is large, this will have a shock on the price level.
No, it won't
but
be
quarterly, that's an example, is a petroleum price. Monthly adjustment, no one feels that. It doesn't transmit into a price level because of small adjustment every month. Yeah, that's what India is. Even yeah, that's a problem with the electricity. You need a lot of data to determine more regular adjustments.
So they are fighting now the PUCSL and the CEB.
That's a different issue.
So if they come on the same page, right? They can't agree on the costing. I mean, so therefore there's a huge volatility. Now today they are saying CEB made 13 billion. How many? 13 billion or something loss. I mean, it's really not a loss, because the clawback was considered as an expense when it should have really been a contingent liability.
No, that is where the risk is 13 billion loss, and if they forecast another 13 billion in the next 6 months, there will be a 10% increase. That will have a direct impact on the inflation target. That 10% hike means it will have a price levels only going up by at least 3-4%.
No, that is because of the starting point of the bulk service tariff, no?
Oh, that's a different.
So I mean, those are definitions that need to be sort of resolved. But let's move along.
Then the other one, Chairman, was on the areas. In January 25th, he asked about this digital currencies, crypto, and now it's very much a hot topic. What's the situation? Because at that time they said not relevant, but now it's become more than relevant.
Honorable Member, it is part of the financial system stability, cryptocurrency and all of that. So shall we just let Dr. Jagajeevan quickly finish this and then get to the
other
question
on that would be the EPF. Now the debt management has been taken out of central bank with the IMF insistence, but the EPF still remains, because and the IMF management is with you all. You're buying to the banks, which is regulator and operator. How do you look at delinking this to a more independent authority?
So that question, wait, let me quickly finish this, because legally I got to finish this section, right? So let's do that, and then we'll come to the question the Honorable Member asked.
So under this securing financial system stability, we have classified the slides under major functions and operations falling under the financial system stability. Let me start with the macroprudential surveillance related functions. So there has been a new framework to identify domestic systemically important banks, and stress testing has been strengthened, and sustainable finance roadmap version 2 has been released, and there was a revision to the cap on LTV ratios, and also the statutory publication financial stability review has been published recently. And also the quarterly financial soundness indicators are now being published on a regular basis on our website. On the supervision of banks, there were improvements to regulatory framework. Several circulars and directions were issued on the areas of reliefs to SMEs, corporate governance improvements, reporting information technology and cyber security incidents of the banks, and approved securities for accommodation granted for related parties, recovery plans for licensed banks, and outsourcing of business operations by licensed banks, and guidelines for qualified external auditors. And also there was a MOU entered into with Nepal Rashtra Bank. And regulatory approvals were granted for opening branches, self-serving machines, and other banking outlets. And there were 217 regulatory approvals were given related to fitness and proprietary of bank directors, CEOs, and key management personalities. And there were on-site examinations, 14 examinations were completed, and 4 spot examinations were completed. Related to non-bank financial institutions also, there were measures to improve the regulatory framework with the amendments to Bank Finance Business Act, Finance Leasing Act, and directions issued related to liquidity management, recovery plans for finance companies, and issued directions on maximum interest rates on deposits and debt instruments, and credit risk management of licensed microfinance companies. And also the regular supervision activities were conducted on site, 15 on-site supervision and 3 spot supervisions, and continuous supervision for 335 reports have been generated, and regulatory approvals were given, a large number of regulatory approvals were given. And also the court cases related to failed finance companies, primary dealer companies continues. And also investigation on unauthorized deposit taking has been continued. And the non-bank financial institution regulation supervision department has been actively engaging in public awareness and capacity building on several sensitive areas. And also the deposit insurance regulation related functions, there were orders issued under the Banking Special Provisions Act.
Unless there are, these are just
okay,
regular things, you don't need to, unless there are any exceptional cases.
Maybe under this financial consumer relations, there is a draft directions on fees and charges and designated consumer risk registry, and also the market conduct supervision has started. 2 full scope examinations were conducted, and the anti-pyramid scheme week was held to prepare awareness on these pyramid schemes nationwide. And on the payments and settlement side also, there were instructions on new circulars on retail payment systems and mobile payment systems were conducted, and a lot of awareness on the digital payments, fraud and all completed. And the regulations were issued under foreign exchange management, and there were some investments, outside investment were facilitated through clearance. And on the public debt management, so currently that phasing out of public debt management is happening in 2 phases. Currently public debt management office officials are working with the public debt department under the supervision of under the CBSL premises, and at the next stage they will be doing at the public debt management office, and eventually this will be fully transferred by early next year. On the financial intelligence unit, there are preparations for the mutual evaluation that is happening early next year, and all these coordination work with several other agencies are happening at present. On the regional development side also mainly focusing on the financial inclusion objectives. Several awareness sessions were conducted and initiatives that are taken for financial inclusion. That's the main.
On this PDMO, we are concerned, government. We are concerned whether they have the right skill set, whether they have the right number of people, because they have to take on the responsibility. They have sent us a note saying, look, X number of training sessions were conducted by you. How satisfied are you, Governor, that by 1 January 2026, this entire public debt management operation is to migrate to the Ministry of Finance? How confident are you?
Yeah, I think we have been working very closely with the PDM office by our public debt department. I think earlier there was some concerns. Minister of Finance also asked some more time for transition, but we basically give them sufficient technical assistance, and they have now taken a lot of operations. For example, earlier we have been conducting auctions weekly and monthly basis. Now they have been taken over with our guidance. I think why don't I, Superintendent of Public Debt is very much involved in the process and the developments. SPD, why don't you explain the process? I think
yes,
what our understanding is that they are ready to take over from 1st of January now.
Yes, Honorable Chairman, in fact with regard to that training that's going on, as well as since of very recently that they are carrying out the operations under our supervision, but we have given prominence to them to make the recommendations and so forth. So they have, I think there is a considerable improvements in them in analysis and so forth, and they are now making the presentations at the tender boards as well under our supervision. And from December onwards, the expectation is to them to continue operations based on the regulation that are to be yet to come. So right now there is a bit of a delay in regulation to be passed, so they await for the regulation to be passed for them to start operations on their own based on their framework. But right now they work at the public debt office under our supervision and regulation, but they are making the necessary technical analysis and making the necessary technical inputs for the tender boards to make the recommendations. So I think there is improvement in their operations with regard to the aspects of the day-to-day operations of the public debt. But I think they have some more aspects to be looked into as well, because their spectrum is broader, I guess. That's what my observation is.
Yeah, you said some regulations need to be...
Yeah, they emphasize that there is certain regulation to be...
So, I mean, is that has to do with the legislation? Do we have to legislate any regulation? Or
in terms of PDM Act, they say that there is some regulation to be issued, and which need to be passed by the Parliament as well,
so
for them to start...
Parliament stops for business till we don't meet again after the budget. When are you going to pass it?
But what are these regulations for? To
I think basically, so they are the people who are best to interpret it, but they said to them to start on operations of conducting auctions and so forth, they are to get certain regulation passed by the Parliament.
What's your name?
I'm Yasantha Veerasinghe.
You're the?
I am the Superintendent of Public Debt.
Mr. Veerasinghe, but then Parliament business has finished for the year. Because we start the budget on the 7th, and the last day of the budget, Parliament goes on vacation. And 1st of January comes before we meet again. So when are you going to get this legislation passed in Parliament?
No, but until those regulations are passed, are the operations under the CBSL? Is that how it's...
That is what, from next month onwards, I think regulations are, as my understanding, because now the current process, although there are no specific gazetted regulations on the earlier legislation, but they say under the PDMO Act, they need to issue regulation gazetted, for example, how to conduct auctions, who will chair the tender board, what is the composition, all these things will have to be issued in terms of regulation and gazetted. That is the process. Until then, what they are doing now, using the current structure, tender board and central bank and the Minister of Finance both together conducting tender board. Going forward, they have to take control of full thing. For that, they have to issue the regulations. So that part, I think, if that is delayed, still we can continue the same process until regulations are passed by the parliament.
You know why I'm saying this, Governor? I asked you, Mr. Veerasinghe, whether we need to be involved in this process, meaning the legislature, right? Because this is a
Yes,
very
of-
sensitive,
bring that.
very sensitive topic, okay? Right, you go do the first auction without proper regulation, questions are going to be asked. So even if you find a day or half a day or half an hour after budget, you know, and if you need to bring that legislation and get it passed, I would in my sort of capacity advise you to do so.
But wouldn't that transfer all the operations to the?
No, it's a
Ministry
date,
of
no.
Finance?
There will be a start date, no. End
Informed
date.
by Public Debt Department that you are pushed to June 1st.
No.
That's the last intimation that came for Public Debt Department.
No.
So there is a...
I don't think we, that, there may be.
No, I don't recall.
There's that opinion, 1st
Really?
of June.
Where was that?
Since
Where
of
was
the
previous meeting.
What was it?
Since of
Can
the
you get
effective date, there is 18 months in terms of law. There is 18 months.
That's right.
That
So doesn't that cover to June 1st?
Yeah, but they have advanced the calendar sort of, so that by next year they will be starting operations. But in terms of law, I believe that we could even continue until May of next year sort of.
That's where
But
they are.
That
it's
is
not
the
a-
current. That is the current operation, right?
The current.
So
No, so all what I'm saying is, don't have any overlap here. I mean, if you are saying, you said from 1 January it's going to transfer to PDMO, then you better have whatever is required by law to do that, right?
No, but without the regulations, I don't think the transfer will happen. Isn't that
So then,
how-
This
then
is
you
what
can't
our
do it
understanding
for
with the
1
Minister of
January.
Finance, our understanding Minister of Finance, ST and the officials, PDMO, what they have indicated, they can get ready to have full operation 1st of January. I think they have to bring in the regulation, get it passed in the parliament by the Minister of Finance through the regulations.
Yeah, so all what I'm saying again, Governor, is we have no more free days in Parliament.
Yeah, that I think Minister of
So
Finance
that
said
you will have to discuss whoever is relegating or rather transferring the duties to the PDMO or the government side. Yeah. I'm just bringing it up.
Yeah, sure.
Anything else?
didn't
Honorable
get
Ravi
answer.
Karnanayaka's answer, question.
Yeah, on the question on, I think, Bank Supervision Department staff, DBS, actually, what we have also seen, when you try to attract expertise from the market, for example, commercial banks, there is a constraint in terms of the new act. For central bank recruitment, any employee, there's a cooling period of 3 years. So that is the problem when we try to recruit people from the market. They are reluctant to join the central bank because of the cooling period, 3 years. They can't go back and join the bank sector again because of this cooling period thing in the law, the new law. That's otherwise either we have to pay compensation higher for them to be attracted to central bank, or because this is one of the concerns we see, difficult to attract expertise, especially for the bank supervision department from the market, from the banks. Because if they are working in the banks, they come and join the central bank at least for 3-4 years. They can't go back and work again in the bank because the cooling period of 3 years. You know, that's like unemployed for another 3 years. That's a bit of an issue that, as you know, this Central Bank Act, this Supreme Court brought in this restriction.
Yeah, because we wanted to keep it at 18 months, but it went to 36 months, and you can't argue with that because of historical issues.
Correct.
So I guess, those ethics will have to be followed. Can't do anything about that.
Other question on that, FIU, Honorable Rakonayaka, based on the crypto, I think I want to make here the point on the FIU, the AML-CFT. This important thing happened next year, mutual evaluation taking place of Sri Lanka, the compliance with all the requirements under the Asia Pacific Group, money laundering, the evaluation taking place. Last 2 times we were downgraded to the grey list. This time we want to ensure that we are going in the right direction. This is what I want to highlight here. This is not only the responsibility of central bank, because it's a much coordinated effort by a lot of other agencies for money laundering, preventing money laundering and compliance with the AML CFT standards. Only then they will pass us, at least maintain this rating. That's why we are having a lot of discussion, working with the, for example, Minister of Justice, Customs, Inland Revenue, Police, Gem and Jewelry, this Gambling Authority. There are a lot of things to happen. Part of that related to what Raganda asked is cryptocurrency. That is also one requirement under this thing. We need to have at least identify usage of virtual currencies not to be used for money laundering purposes. For that, I think we have already taken initiatives. Why don't I invite Director FIU to explain what we are doing now to address that part?
That'll be good, because she was there, I think, at our meeting with the casino regulator, and we've given them direction by 30th of June to have it operational so that we will not run into this problem. So that is that, and the cryptocurrency. You know, there are people, young fellows playing cryptocurrency. That's not an issue. I think what is happening now is large numbers of big transactions. Large numbers of big transactions are taking place on cryptocurrency. Now, for instance, if you look at India, what they have been doing is they're sending out assessments in the tens of thousands, right? And they haven't banned it, they haven't encouraged it. And in Sri Lanka also, I think it is prudent now that we bring in some sort of taxation even, because people are making money out of cryptocurrency. And any money that you make is liable for...
Last January, is that this is not legal or illegal, no, but is there a revenue source that we can get through the process? Now, if you possess a cryptocurrency or digital currency, is it legal, illegal or not?
So that's the point I was trying to get to.
FIU can go only if it's illegal?
No, so that's the point. So the point is, if you make revenue, you have to pay tax, no? That's the basic principle.
Exactly.
Now, if it is an intangible asset, there are all kinds of intangible. Art is also an intangible asset, no? Now, in this case, how do you define regulations to tax the revenue of cryptocurrency? I mean, is it capital gains on cryptocurrency? What is that? Or if it is a transaction, what is that? So, I mean, in India, I think they impose 15 or 18% GST, and they have another 1% or something, some other tax. Then you have various other taxes. So you're bringing them into the tax net. But here, there is no tax specified on cryptocurrency. So the question is, should we not think about bringing them within the tax bracket,
That's, I think, there are two issues. What you basically talking about here is one is our responsibility just to prevent the virtual assets to be used for money laundering. That's a FIU responsibility. That is one part. As India also done that. They have appointed virtual asset service providers registered with their FIU, and they are supposed to report all transactions. Once they are registered, they have to share information with the FIU who are doing transactions.
Just one moment there, Governor. Now, we also did that, no?
No, we didn't do that.
No, we have given them time, no? I mean,
this is the new one that we are
so we passed here legislation that VAT for digital services, right? So if the service is being provided by some jurisdiction outside of Sri Lanka, they'll have to register, and then they'll have to pay tax.
That is from June 26.
June 1, 2026. So if Binance is a platform on which people are buying and selling crypto, then they have to register.
That's what we are doing, exactly. That's what we
so
are
if you do register, I have a question for you on that. Maybe FIU can answer also. So once you do that, then your blockchain or whatever it is that you call goes back for, number of years, right? From the time these people were registered, their income is now due, they'll have to pay taxes on that income.
That's a taxation policy. Government will have to make a decision on that. I think there are two things. That's what India also did. They did not recognize this as a promotion or demotion. It's only if they earn money, they are liable to pay taxes. Whatever they were, if the people even earning money, they are liable to pay taxes. That is the amendment they brought in addition to FIU requirement. They revised the Inland Revenue law to recognize this as a income source, as capital gain and the digital tax. But in our law, what your point is digital taxation, it says there's no clear definition whether digital taxation covers the cryptocurrency transaction. That I think for Inland Revenue to bring it back, bring it to a tax net, they have to revise the Inland Revenue Act and bring that as a source of income so that they are liable to pay taxes. That's the other thing.
Needs to be done.
So
I think that is what, Honorable Minister, I think that is what needs to be done, because if you looking at from a Inland Revenue Department's sort of point of view, then you need clear definition of crypto.
Now, from a central bank point of view,
Yes, you need to introduce a new source. So, I mean, some amendment to the IRD Act.
now possessing the crypto means money has gone out, no? So the going out is part of the FIU process, no? So possessing that means that legal currency has gone out, converting. How does it been looked at from central bank point of view?
Why don't you FIU explain the process? Subhani.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Chair, as the FIU, this is a requirement because this is under the recommendation 15. If there are virtual asset service providers operating within a jurisdiction, the country should either license them, register them, or prohibit them. So what we are doing is, as the FIU, we want to bring them under the AML-CFT, Anti-Money Laundering and Countering the Financing of Terrorism regime. For that, we are in the process of amending our Financial Transactions Reporting Act. We are recognizing them as reporting entities, reporting institutions. So the vast definition, the virtual asset service providers will be included. That is only for AML-CFT purposes. But for the tax purposes, of course, and for other purposes, there should be a prudential regulator. We have actually already implemented a three-phase, three-stage. We have phased it out and we want to bring them into the regime. So at the beginning, now we have conducted a survey just to identify virtual asset service providers. So far we have received information from 13 companies. And the second stage is we are sending out detailed surveys to them so that we could get more information. But from the FIU's perspective, what we could do is they become reporting institutions under the Financial Transactions Reporting Act. They will be in a position to report suspicious transactions and also threshold transactions. However, as a country, we have to take a national level policy to regulate them and to establish a prudential regulator for them. So that is actually the third phase where Sri Lanka should establish a proper prudential regulator where licensing and registration will happen through that regulatory body. What we can do is we can designate them as reporting entities. It is not a registration per se. They are required to appoint compliance officers for the purposes of anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism. The biggest challenge is, as we are aware, we are facing our mutual evaluation next year. This time it is more about effectiveness. The legal framework per se won't be sufficient. We have to show our effectiveness. For that, there are 11 immediate outcomes. Immediate outcome 3 on supervision and preventative measures on financial institutions include these virtual asset service providers as well. So our banks and formal financial institutions will be evaluated along with these virtual asset service providers. So that challenge is there. So we have suggested to the Ministry of Digital Economy to establish a subcommittee under the AML-CFT task force. So this task force is actually represented by cabinet ministers also. So this committee should have, our proposal is to have relevant authorities to study on this and to propose on a regulatory framework, proper prudential regulatory framework for the virtual asset service providers.
Thanks for your
Thank you,
information.
Chair.
But finally, legally, possessing it, is it legal or not?
It is not illegal in Sri Lanka.
So we're not illegal, it's legal. No, I mean,
there is
there are certain revelations that people are holding. There must be some comfort factor given, because otherwise they'll be hounded out for no crime committed. So if you all are saying it is acceptable, and you say, okay, let's revenue tax them for a certain this thing, then until legitimacy comes in, it can pursue.
If I may clarify, I think there's a point Honorable Minister Raghunath is raising, is that now under the Foreign Exchange Act, there's no permission to convert rupees and even by dollars, not only for current transaction this is permitted. For capital transaction, if we consider this as a financial asset, legally that's a violation of Foreign Exchange Act. If someone because of that reason we are not permitted banks to change rupees to buy the cryptocurrency. That's not possible. I think what we see, who has bought this foreign virtual assets in Sri Lanka, perhaps they have been buying through other informal Hawala ways. They probably send money and bought from Binance or somewhere else. That has been probably what has
credit cards. No, credit cards are
even
also
credit
wanted.
cards cannot be used to, not a bank's transaction, not credit transaction cannot be used to buy virtual assets current system. That's because they can hide. For example, if someone say it's an importer, they over invoice and buy $100 and 25 is additional amount, that $25 one can use to buy cryptocurrency on somewhere else. That we can't find. So there are ways and means people can use this system to circumvent all this regulation, buy cryptocurrencies and hold those. But there's no law here whether it's prohibited or not. There's no clear legislation in Sri Lanka. As a result, no one can take action. This is why we bring in this actually at least to regulate and register service providers, both locally and abroad, that we can share that information. But historically, what happened in the past, that's already happened under the current system, not through formal channels, but probably through informal channels. Then, if we bring in that requirement, then if the virtual service providers share that information, we get to know how this transaction happened. Until then, this information is not available. And this is where it could be seen as a violation of Foreign Exchange Act if someone has bought in the past. But again, problem is that the new Foreign Exchange Act that was brought in, there's a restriction, any violation after 6 months, that's not valid. That is the 2017 Foreign Exchange Act that brought in, we are trying to address that part also. That's gone 6 months after the violation. It is not, we can't conduct inquiry and take actions against the violations.
Honorable Chairman, this on the taxation side, which is a separate issue. I mean, the Inland Revenue Act, I think while the digital tax is imposing VAT or whatever, as far as profits tax is concerned, whether your income is legal or illegal is not a matter for the taxman. Even illegal money can be taxed. That is illegal profits, I mean. So that is a separate exercise, which unless it is exempted, any profit anybody makes from crypto trading would be taxable. Of course, the challenge would be to find it. To get that, to establish that. But I think that the law is there to collect the tax. But the method of collecting, of course, is a challenge.
So what amount of exports at the moment are still floating around outside, in your central bank's knowledge?
Based on our data, export repatriation happening 100%, almost 100% repatriate share out of
100% in the given period.
There's some months 95%, next month 105%, like it's moving. Month to month can be variation, but broadly repatriation is happening.
Yes,
I have few direct questions. One is on this.
Is it related to crypto or no?
Not crypto.
So I have one last question. Now, have you all noticed any change in the remittance flows, moving away from the banking system, perhaps to crypto type instruments?
I don't think. I mean, in our observation, we don't see large amount of money going through I don't think that's happening. Basically, what we have observed basically is shows that some young people who buy through different platforms this
let's
cryptocurrency in
leave
the
those small timers.
those are small timers. No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't see. I mean, information for us. We don't see large amount of transaction happening. We don't know, but so far we don't have that information. We don't see that is happening.
Okay.
Because if that happens, basically you can see the black market premium of the parallel premium of the foreign exchange will have to be much larger. When there's a large transaction happening outside the system, there will be people who are willing to pay more for that transaction. But its premiums are pretty normal and it has not been increasing.
Okay.
There's another question from the Honorable Raikonak on the EPF. On the recommendation, there's the diagnostic assessment, there's a recommendation EPF to be taken away from the central bank because of the conflict. Obviously, we all recognize there's a conflict. So we don't mind taking that out. But recently, we got a direction from the government saying that government has decided to retain EPF with the central bank and asked us to improve the process, and but still decision is to, despite the recommendation, I think we got the communication from the government. It's up to the government to decide. It's coming under the EPF Act. Act has to be amended and need to create a different institution like PDMO, different institution to run this EPF separately with the Labour Department or some other institution. That has to happen. I think in my view, that has to happen very careful process. Think about the process, who can take this over, who can run this fund, who can manage this, address conflict of interest, all these good practices. Those will have to be brought in under new institution if that is taken away from the central bank. Correct. Right now, decision is to keep it to the central bank.
That is news to us.
But we got a letter from the President Secretariat that government has decided to retain it with the central bank.
This is a recent decision?
It will remain as how you have managed
Yeah.
previously. There's no change to how it's
change
managed.
to, yeah. We are not the regulator. We are the custodian of the fund.
No.
There's no regulator in Sri Lanka for superannuation fund. There's no regulator.
Is the regulator of the banks?
Regulator of banks, no regulator. Superannuation fund is no superannuation fund.
Manages the account which you buy into accounts of the banks, and then you regulate indirectly.
No, that's a different. That's so earlier practice that previous governments use EPF shares to appoint directors on their own to the bank boards. Now why don't Mr. Fonseca can explain that process?
There was a situation, Honorable Chair and Honorable Ravi Karanayake, where the government used its shareholding to influence appointments to the board. So this was going back to my previous stint in the Monetary Board, where a situation arose where EPF was planning to vote some directors out. So when it came to the board's attention at that time, we took a decision that first of all EPF should only invest in shares where they are confident of the management. Otherwise, they have no business in investing in shares. So we should not invest to change boards or anything like that. So we took a decision at that time. I think from then, to my knowledge, that has been followed, that the EPF will vote with the boards of the banks. If the board recommends a certain decision, the EPF will support it unless the EPF considers it is detrimental to shareholders or the EPF, in which case they have to come to the board, come to the Monetary Board and explain why they think it is detrimental. And it has happened in a couple of decisions, not in relation to directors, it has happened in a couple of decisions where we have said that we have voted against certain recommendations made by directors on certain items. So that is the governance structure we have put for the shares, not only for banks, or for all our investments in listed companies. We are a passive investor who invests in what we think to be good companies. If we don't think they are that good, either we get out, or if they still take action which is detrimental, considered detrimental, then of course, so that governance structure has been put in place. So the EPF shares, the EPF will not. Earlier they used to issue proxies in various ways without anybody knowing, under pressure from various parties, but that has not happened to my knowledge in recent times.
On that, just one moment, right? I mean, this is not an ideal situation. I mean, you know, blue chip company which is not in the finance sector is a different animal altogether. You know, the EPF buying into bank shares. I mean, we know we don't want to go back to the history of this. I think, you know, and also law cannot be ad hominem, no? I mean, yeah, maybe you won't do it. Who knows? I might come and I'll do it because the law allows me to do it, right? Because the regulations of investment in the central bank's EPF were not followed. We all know that, right? So therefore, I think in the long term, we have to find a solution that, you know, these Chinese walls are real Chinese walls, right? So that's my comment
so
on
then
that.
can get back to the previous position on which this was amended somewhere in 2006. No?
Six.
So you get back to, prior to that they were not allowed to buy shares, no? They were trading in the normal...
Not 6, no, 12, no, it was 10, 11.
It's a decision of the monetary board.
11, I think.
It's not by law. It's a decision of the monetary board to diversify their investment into different classes.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it is 5.2 in your investment, what do you call? Investment guideline.
But the Honorable Chairman, the problem, I think, at least the justification at that time, was if the EPF is going to invest in shares, the financial services, especially the banking sector, at least in this country, is a very big portion of that, of the listed share market. So the question is, you will have a very skewed investment portfolio if you leave that sector out completely. So that was the, I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that was the rationale. That was because the fortunes of the, when you are measured, your performance, you leave out a big sector like that. So you will have a problem in measuring how the investment portfolio has performed. But the problem you are saying, I agree. I mean, I'm not arguing with that.
So if the government in the budget process decides that there will be a percentage that will go on to the stock market, what would EPS position be? You buy in or wait out with what your last statement? Now, if the government reveals that they would like to put, going to undercapitalization of the banks, that would like to put 10, 15, 20% into the stock market, would your EPF position be, in your last statement, keep out of it or get...
No, I don't think, honestly, the government can decide that, because the EPF, the central bank, has been the trustee, and at least in recent times, the EPF has made its own decisions on where it invests. I mean,
well, Mr. Fonseca.
But I'm not saying that, I mean...
Well, I mean, you didn't ask a single EPF, what do you call, shareholder or employee what to do with their the bonds. So let us not go there. You represented EPF. I don't want to
just one more question.
That's a different debate.
Yeah, that's a different debate.
And I think
let's not get into that. Because we are opening a new can of worms.
Yeah, still it's not a primary dealer, right? It will still buy at the secondary market on the bonds.
No.
No, EPF given a primary dealer status.
Yeah,
they can directly participate in the auctions.
They can.
Yeah, they can.
Because there's a largest investor in the market.
Yeah, of course.
They haven't given that status. Totally fine.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I have few questions
Yes.
quickly. So there are certain concerns made by the SME sector when they go to the grievance handling process, that against banks, certain issues with the banks, that is not being cared for. I just want to know how many inquiries were made and how many issues were resolved, or those things, how that is handled. That's one. And on the microfinance, have we really put a cap to the interest rate, or how we have managed it? Third is the PayPal issue, the Stripe and the PayPal. There are discussions, or there are views to say that it's about the monetary the Money Exchange Act, given that these institutions are not willing to establish in Sri Lanka because of the KYCs and the required inability to monitor back and forth transactions in these platforms. Fourthly is about venture capital institutions coming into Sri Lanka. So they have raised certain concerns over repatriation of funds as venture capitals, they need a faster turnaround. So these are just 4 concerns to get your views.
Yeah, I think venture capital, what we have on the Provincial Act, there are restrictions on how much money can be coming in and how much can be taken out. That is, during the crisis period, there was a restriction. Once in every 6 months, you see, can come into the parliament, gradually relax these limits. It's applicable to all the firms, those who are basically, if money coming through a foreign investment IIA account, they can bring that money and take this money out without any this thing. But if they come and invest in normal accounts converted into rupees, then there's a restriction for them to take that money out. That is the existing foreign exchange regime that is applicable to all the investors unless they come to IIA account as a non-resident investor. There's no restriction on that.
But so Governor, the venture capital funds are a different type of.
No, that's a decision by the government. If this foreign exchange is agency function, what we do, Minister of Finance authority to determine whether we give exemption to certain sectors so that we open up. So I think right now we are basically applying a similar across all the sectors. That is how it has been happening. But I can remember recently when you recommended some relaxation, Minister of Finance didn't want to go through further relax because of the concern of the foreign exchange. It's a gradual process. That will happen over a period of time. Your second, if you can remember, I can't remember.
Yeah, the grievances.
I think FCRD. Why don't we have AG in charge of the? What if we have established a department called Financial Consumer Relation Department that is to look after the consumer side and improve disclosures and address all these things. I think Dilukshan, can you explain the process? Yeah.
So basically, FCRD receives around 200 to 250 complaints a month. But those mainly comes as personal grievances, not as SMEs. Because public, they go for borrowings as personal loans. So maybe they have invested in some kind of small businesses. So then, because they have to first go to the bank or the financial institution and raise their grievance. When they are not happy with the solution provided by the financial institution, then they come to the FCRD. So usually then we talk to the financial institution, we intermediate and we try to solve the problem. It takes, some problems are quite complex and even the consumers are not ready to accept some solutions the financial institutions provide. So in that case, it takes some time to solve the problem, and some problems it's very difficult to solve. Usually we give solutions within 3 months. That's the rule of thumb.
Yeah, so just to get a sense of it, so out of 200, how much would it get favorably resolved from the consumer's perspective?
Again, the consumer perspective, when we tell the banks should offer a solution. But when the customer is not willing to accept the solution, then they go away. So that's up to the
unresolved problem.
Unresolved. Then it's unresolved. So I don't think, because when you look at the nature of the complaints, sometimes we understand there are difficulties, but they can't go beyond the existing structure to go out of the way and provide solutions by the banks or by the central bank. We can't ask them to give them this solution because this person has some problem. It's within the framework. We're trying to resolve as much as possible with the agreement between two parties. And in addition, what we are doing is we recognize there are certain deficiencies in terms of disclosure of certain. Why people are getting into trouble is that they don't, when you take a loan, they don't read carefully or they are not explain the proper reasons of, terms and conditions. They just sign off and take the loan. Once they take the loan only, they find it difficult. Then obviously we are trying to improve the disclosures, transparency through our regulation on the FCRD. That is the process we are taking through, at least to increase transparency of the terms and conditions, and consumer have a better awareness of what they are getting into. That is the root cause of the problem that we are trying to address that. But until then, there will be continuously, we are getting letters every day from the consumers saying that this is there are two processes. One is the financial ombudsman process that is not very effective. Our process is much more effective now. FCRD, we recently only during the COVID period that was introduced, and people are very familiar with the process, and they have a process to complain, send emails, there's a hotline, and there's a monitoring process, and then we also monitor the progress of those complaints received and those solutions. But there are obviously, there's no way 100% can be resolved because it has to be agreement between negotiation between two parties.
But
banks and
it's getting engaged, right? So
yeah, it's
there's
getting
no
engaged.
delay as such.
So if I add on, from next year, January onwards, we will be introducing a key fact document. So everything, all the key information related to, the loan will go as one page.
Okay.
So that will
So
make
there's
the
more
consumer
transparency
more
and
aware, and process will become more transparent. They go for early settlements, then bank charge, they are not happy with the rates that bank charges, but it's there in the agreement, so we can't ask banks to change the agreement, so that kind of
so
issues
most of
are
the
there.
concerns I've received is on execution of Parate law, that the banks are working really difficultly in terms of selling the asset, that they don't allow the customer to find buyers and come to a proper rate, that banks are trying to sell it at a lower price and try to settle the thing. So these are certain concerns, but what I'm trying to understand is that process is happening, right?
Yes.
So even those things. And the other one is on the microcredit. Is there a limit of it?
No, microcredit, there's no regulation.
No cap.
No cap. Because one is two things. One is under the Finance Business Act, we regulate finance companies. Finance companies, if they engage in, it's not only microcredit, they're leasing, as I said, owning all these businesses. Microcredit institutions are different. That is where the government is bringing credit regulatory authority, under which they can bring in regulations. There are large number of thousands of institutions unregulated, providing microcredit. They are not taking deposits, they are providing credit out of their own funds. There's no regulation. That's why CRA was presented to the Parliament. The Supreme Court, there was a challenge. And now new act, reverse act is now again, I think I understand is finalized and will come to the Parliament soon, under which microcredit will be regulated by separate authority.
Right. So the central bank looks at the deposit taking.
We regulate only deposit taking institution just to look after depositors' interest base mainly.
So in the last one is on the PayPal and Stripe.
We have no restriction at all. This is what we understand. We have been trying. There's no restriction from our side for PayPal to come and do business here. It's their decision. They don't see this is a viable market for them to come and do business.
Yeah,
their complaint is that our exchange regulations are stringent, but still they are in the India. Similar restrictions are there in India, but that's a bigger market. Yeah, its volumes are very high. Here, for them to have a feasible business with restrictions, they don't see a viable case here.
So the governor, you are saying compared to other countries, the regulations are good enough for such companies to come and establish.
Yeah, because we still have foreign exchange capital account restriction are there, no? So that's where current account transaction, there's no issue. But these companies need to be able to repatriate capital freely, whatever amount they are collecting. That facility still is not freely repatriated.
That means you need to get prior approval.
Yeah, prior approval, and subject to say $1 million per year or $5 million per listed companies.
So what you are saying is this is kind of similar in India as well, but they do operate there.
They operate because of the bigger market.
Yeah, I understand that.
The domestic
but
market
comparatively to Singapore and Malaysia and other countries, we are a little restrictive.
They are fully liberalized. There are no restriction on the capital restriction are not there. Okay. That is attraction for these companies to come and do business.
Sorry, my last question was today I was at Port City. They said that there are pending approvals for the bank operations from Central Bank, 16 banks plus 4 others. And you all are waiting for something or the other was not very clear.
Can DBS respond to that, please?
As far as I know, there are no regulatory approvals pending from our side. Banks wanted to go and operate, and we have suggested some amendments to the Ministry of Finance, where the banks, our own banks, can set up branches if the amendments go through, and it will be just like another branch of a bank, and being able to conduct all banking operations, the full suite of banking, including lending to non-residents and so on. So there's nothing pending from our side.
But a local bank operating in the port city is only for offshore, no? Not for domestic?
So, the amendments that we have suggested lately would permit our local banks to go and operate as normal branches.
Why, see, even that was, so why don't you permit the offshore? Why
Wait. What did you say?
Yeah, so
which amendment is that?
No, some suggestions were made because our
suggestions were made, no, amendments were made to the law.
Suggestions were made to the Ministry of Finance.
Yeah, but then port city operations at domestic banks are strictly for offshore banking.
Offshore, and
yeah.
Chairman,
yes, but
let me, because the issue is there are two types of banking operations there. One is our banks which are already here, who want to offer services to people there who may be working there or whatever it is, which is no different to any of their branches which are outside. But now, after we merge the operations of offshore banks and the domestic operations, there is nothing called offshore banking operations. It's a permitted activity that they can do. So even if those branches can do offshore banking operations either from that branch or even from whatever existing branch that they have.
Sure.
So so as of now there was a limitation in the port city law.
Correct.
That they had to be a authorized authorized person.
Yes.
Which had several other things. For you to become authorized person, there were several other things.
Sure.
So this was at variance with which had a negative impact on our local banks doing normal business there. I mean, with not offshore business. Even offshore business, to the extent permitted, they can do. But there's another category of banks who are not operating here. That is, let's say, for sake of argument, UBS or whoever who is not operating here, who can set up a branch there, who will only be able to transact with offshore entities. They can, so that is a different regulatory regime for those.
Yeah,
now, so now for that, what we have said is they will have to be authorized persons and they will have a different regulatory regime, and then we need to. I think we are in discussion to issue what that regulatory framework is. I mean, earlier there was some doubt as to who is going to regulate, what the regulations are, and I think recently there was something that we should follow the normal regulatory requirements, but it is not as strict as what would apply to a domestic bank, because they are not taking any domestic deposits. Finally, we are looking after our domestic people. So that is a different regulatory regime that has to be developed, and those discussions are now going on. But the enabling provisions for this demarcation has to come through a regulation which has to be issued by the minister.
So those 4 banks, can't you issue that particular one so that let them trade offshore? There is no issue at all for Sri Lanka. At least we'll be trading on something and make it viable.
No, but then what is the? I mean, there's a policy argument here, no, Mr. Fonseca?
No, so that is correct. So the policy argument being that because there is honestly, I don't know. There is actually no reason for a domestic bank to have a physical presence in the port city, because they can do what they want from here.
Outside.
But unless they want to offer convenience to people, that's a different thing.
No, because they don't pay taxes.
Sorry?
They don't pay tax.
No, that won't apply, because
that's what I'm saying.
So
why you want
No,
to set
that
it?
is if they are authorized.
That is my point.
They are not an authorized
No.
person.
So my point is, if you become an authorized person,
that is
you
not
don't
permitted.
have to pay pay tax. You don't pay corporate income tax. You don't. You're free from whole bunch of regulations.
No. That is what I mentioned. These banks going there, they will not be authorized persons. They will be just a branch of our bank, normal bank. So they won't get authorized person status. Yeah. But then they'll have to make this distinction and issue the regulations first.
Yeah.
The ministry has to issue that to make that distinction.
Yeah.
So I think.
Okay, let's we have run out of time. Just one other thing on the port. I'm sorry.
And no foreign banks have shown interest as of now. All local. That's right. Yeah.
No, the local banks won't do that because if they would do that, they have to bring
Capital.
capital.
Yeah.
Local banks don't
But
want
then
to do
that's
that.
their complaint.
Yeah,
If they don't bring that, don't let them operate.
That's why local banks are now more comfortable to go there and have a normal branch operation and do the offshore banking business.
Right.
That's what local banks.
But they won't do it as authorized person.
Yeah, that's my point. As long as you're not an authorized person, I mean, there will be McDonald's and all
Whatever,
also selling
whoever,
stuff.
yeah, that's okay.
So they can pay their salaries or whatever. Right. One other issue about, since you brought the port city, now you all are changing the company law, right? Or change the company law. Amendment, not you, government. Now there is a offshore banking operation. Now, why we did that was to go look at, to dig down to the beneficial ownership. Now, in beneficial ownership, port city is not included in the definition. I don't know whether, because I was listening to one of these tax experts speak, whether it has been an oversight or whether it is deliberate, the guy didn't really know.
I don't think CBSL can answer that.
Yeah, yes, please.
Honorable Chair, actually for the AML-CFT perspectives, all the laws applicable to the mainland are applicable to the port city as well. So under AML-CFT requirements, this beneficial ownership requirement is there. Even in our CDD rules, and after the Act Amendment, our Act Amendment, it will be embedded in the Act also. So even though it has not been specifically mentioned in the company law amendment, all the persons,
Should it be
authorized
mentioned
persons
though?
and other.
Should it be mentioned for legal purposes? Should it be mentioned in the Act?
Better, no?
Companies Act, if it is, I don't know, because then there would be another amendment to bring in this Companies Act, the latest amendment. It took more than 7 years.
No, I know, but this is just a definitional matter, no?
Yeah.
This is just an interpretation at the end. I mean, I think it is an oversight. Maybe it was, not deliberately removed. So if, sometimes you say, no, read this with that. So if somebody will argue, well, I'm reading this with that, but it is not there here.
So that's the thing. Is there any kind of law that supports this argument? Regulation.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Then, gentlemen, ladies, Mr. Fonseca, you had something to say. Mr. Govindasamy, I mean, is there anything that you want to add, sir?
I think Chairman, Governor and the rest of the members have aptly answered all the questions the members had, so I didn't need to get involved at this point.
Mr. Vijay Singh?
Honourable Chair, yes, the same on all the issues. The one thing I might add is to Honourable Member who spoke about SME. I think it will be also important for us to look at what some of those other mechanisms that support de-risking of SME lending, the National Credit Guarantee Institution, plus other measures that could de-risk. I think we have historically looked at reducing the cost of SME lending, but increasingly, given that we are coming out of a crisis, encouraging banks to lend further to SMEs would involve supporting the de-risking of SME lending, and a big part of that would be the Credit Guarantee Institution and other forms to support the bankability of SME moving beyond the
Is that happening with the ADB? Is that moving?
I believe so.
Mr. Maitri Evan, sir, this is your first time here. Did I get your name right?
Yes, but it's Vikramasinghe.
It doesn't say Vikramasinghe. It just says Maitri Evan.
Okay. No worries, no worries.
Yes. Then we can call him Mr. Papa Giorgio. Yes, sir.
No, I think I'm comfortable with what has been said today, and I support what has been said. So that's fine by me.
Okay. Then Dr. Dunusingh.
Well, with that mention, yeah.
You can be
Thank you.
comfortable. You normally have very controversial views. Today you are very comfortable. It's nothing that you, everything is okay for you. Excellent. Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time.
You're watching the Life Traveler channel.